Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, the 23rd November 2023, the report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries on its consideration on the coffee bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023. I beg to lay.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights, Senator Chimera, proceed to present the paper on JLAC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, being a report of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on its consideration of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 37 of 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next Chairperson, Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds, Sipaik Senator Osotsi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House or Senate today, 23rd November 2023. 1, the report of the Select Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit reports of the following water service providers for the year ended 30th June 2019. 1, Amazi Water Services Company Limited, Vihiga County. 2, Bomet Water Company Limited, Bomet County. 3, Gusi Water and Sanitation Company, Kisii, Nyamira Counties. 4, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisumu County. 5, Kwale Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Kwale County. And 6, Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Nyeri County. Second set of reports, report of the Select Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit report of the following water service providers for the year ended 30th June 2020. Number 1, Amazi Water Services Company Limited, Vihiga County. Number 2, Bomet Water Company Limited, Bomet County. Number 3, Gusi Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisii, Nyamira Counties. Number 4, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisumu County. Number 5, Kwale Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Kwale County. Number 6, Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Nyeri County. And lastly, the last set of reports, report of the Select Committee on the County Public Investment and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit report of the following water service providers for the year ended 30th June 2021. 1, Amazi Water Services Company Limited, Vihiga County. 2, Bomet Water Company Limited, Bomet County. 3, Gusi Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisii, Nyamira Counties. 4, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisumu County. 5, Kwale Water and Sewerage. 6, Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Nyeri County. And lastly, Wajir Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Wajir County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I table.
Honorable members, that takes us to an opportunity under Standing Order 2382 for honorable senators to comment cumulatively on the papers which have been laid down this afternoon. And I will allow a maximum of 30 minutes for your comments on all the papers which have just been presented. Senator David Wakoli Wafula.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii Spika ana mamlaka ya kuamua kila anataka.
Very well, Senator Wakoli noted that that is noted. These are on the papers which are yet to ripe for comments on it. So I will ask the clerk to call the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that the Senate adopts the report of the Select Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit reports for the year ended 30th June 2019, 30th June 2020, and 30th June 2021 of the following water service providers. 1, Amazi Water Services Company Limited for Vihiga County, Bomet Water Company Limited for Bomet County, Gusii Water and Sanitation Company Limited for Kisii and Nyamira counties. 4, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited for Kisumu County. 5, Kwale Water and Sewerage Company Limited for Kwale County. Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited for Nyeri County. And the audit report of Wajir Water and Sewerage Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2021, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 23rd November 2023. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk, call the next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable members, these are statements pursuant to Standing Order 52-1, and I will begin by calling upon Senator Crystal Asige, MP, to make a statement regarding commemorating the World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims, observed on the 19th of November annually. Senator Crystal, proceed.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement of topical concern commemorating the World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims observed on the third Sunday of November annually. This poignant occasion marks a solemn acknowledgement of the toll that road crashes exact on humanity. Insights gathered from the UN Global Road Safety Week, held in May this year, vividly illustrate the staggering reality of 1.35 million lives lost annually due to road crashes. A haunting statistic, especially considering that the majority of these tragic losses affect individuals who are between 5 and 29 years old. Here in Kenya, a report by the Ministry of Roads and Transport indicates that over the past 6 years, a total of 20,907 precious lives have been lost due to road crashes, with an additional 3,760 having been lost as of the 15th of October, 2023, with the highest amount of crashes being attributed to motorcycle users, at 1,213 deaths. Sadly, Speaker, NTSA reports that 80% of road crashes are caused by human error. Mr. Speaker, this is a sobering and devastating reality that must be combated head-on. However, Speaker, it is not accurate to imply that Kenyan driver behavior is solely to blame for majority of crashes. Because, for example, this week at the roundabout of Dennisprit, just as you're about to descend to Oletoktok Road, had traffic lights showing green and red at the same time. So of course, Speaker, we expect that intersection to have cases of human error. It was a free-for-all. Saying goes for blind spots, poor signage on roads, dangerous unmarked roadworks, roads without pavements, and so on. If we had complete street design and safety by design adhered to in the country, we would see a tremendous reduction in road crashes, rather than heavily blaming motorists and their behavior. The larger solution is in road design, construction, and maintenance. I want to see CS Murkomen, through both houses of parliament, put pressure on NTSA, Kenha, Kura, KERA, and KRB to stop cutting corners when building roads infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, the United Nations notes that the burden of road traffic fatalities weighs disproportionately on vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists, particularly those residing in developing countries like our own. Despite concerted efforts to meet the 2013 UN SDG of reducing road traffic deaths by 50%, progress remains far from adequate. Alarmingly, the trend in Kenya has been increasing rather than decreasing, from 2,919 deaths in 2017 to 4,619 in 2022. It's of note that in 2022 alone, we had over 21,000 road accidents. But as transport practitioners on the ground, we know these numbers to be far higher. It is no wonder that Kenyans from different walks of life on Sunday, the 19th of November, gathered along the Nairobi-Naivasha highway to mark the occasion, led by the NTSA. Indeed, Speaker, there is a glaring need for all stakeholders to get on board and put in place measures to help motorists and pedestrians alike. Mr. Speaker, a responsive legal system must also include well-thought policy and legislative frameworks encompassing road design and comprehensive road safety education for drivers and pedestrians. Safety by design plays a pivotal role in promoting road safety, serving as a fundamental factor in preventing accidents and minimizing their severity. As I just pointed, is this mic on? Okay, thank you. Additionally, the consideration of NMT infrastructure that accommodates various road users, including pedestrians and cyclists, is crucial. Properly designed sidewalks, bike lanes, and designated crossings enhance their safety, reducing the risk of crashes. Furthermore, incorporation of road design elements that accommodate different weather conditions, visibility challenges, and diverse driving abilities contributes to overall safety on the roads by mitigating potential hazards. Continual education for both drivers and pedestrians, teaching drivers proactive techniques such as defensive driving enables them to anticipate and respond to potential road hazards and can significantly reduce accidents. Furthermore, Speaker, raising awareness about sharing the road with individuals with disabilities is imperative for both drivers and pedestrians. The driving school curriculum must emphasize the importance of being mindful of persons with disabilities on the road, whether visual, hearing, or mobility related, to help cultivate inclusivity and understanding on the road. Mr. Speaker, in June of this year, our nation bore witness to a harrowing tragedy marked as one of the deadliest crashes in our history. A horrific road collision at Londeni claimed the lives of 55 Kenyans. We cannot idly stand by as these preventable crashes unfold. This is why I am compelled to action sponsoring amendments to road-related legislation, including the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, the Traffic Amendment Bill, the National Transport and Safety Authority Amendment Bill, and the Kenya Roads Amendment Bill. I implore the support of this House in passing these bills when they come to the floor, as it is crucial to fortify our roads and ensure the safety of our fellow citizens in Kenya. I thank you, Speaker.
Senator Mohammed Chute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My statement today is on the status of completion of Bunge Towers. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the status of completion of the project for the construction of Bunge Towers. Mr. Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a status update on the completion of Bunge Towers construction project, disclosing the outstanding scope of works. 2, clarify the procedures employed in the tendering process, including information on received bids, the awarded contractor, and the bid amount. Number 3, Honorable Speaker, explain any disparities between the initially agreed upon project timeline and actual commencement and completion dates, outlining any measures implemented to guarantee the project's timely completion and prevent further delays. Mr. Speaker, my second statement is a request for statement on the conversion of grant scholarship to loans by the Higher Education Loans Board. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education on the conversion of grant scholarships by the Ford Foundation to loans funded by the Higher Education Loans Board. Help. In the statement, the committee should, 1, confirm whether the Ford Foundation's funding successfully achieved its objective of awarding scholarships to 40 women in Marsabit County pursuing bachelor's degrees in education. 2, state whether the Higher Education Loans Board implemented the funding model by the Ford Foundation in administration of the scholarship program. And finally, 3, provide an explanation for HELP's decision to convert the originally designated scholarship into loans, outlining the factors that influenced the shift. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Zena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and this is a request for a statement on the prevalence of throat cancer in Samburu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the prevalence of throat cancer in Samburu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a comprehensive report on the current prevalence of throat cancer in Samburu County, encompassing statistics on the number of cases, demographics of affected individuals, and any discernible trends over the preceding 5 years. Sorry. Secondly, to undertake a comprehensive study on the environmental, lifestyle, or genetic factors that may have contributed to the unusually high rates of throat cancer in the county, particularly in Yamo village in Maralal town. And thirdly, to provide details on the scope and effectiveness of any ongoing public health campaigns or initiatives in the county aimed at raising awareness about throat cancer, its symptoms and preventive measures. And lastly, indicate the budgetary allocation and personnel deployed by the government to enhance healthcare infrastructure and services related to cancer diagnosis and treatment in Samburu County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Shakila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request for statement on customs regulations and taxation for travelers returning to Kenya through the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget concerning customs, regulations and taxation clearance procedures for travelers returning to Kenya through the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. In the statement, the committee should state the criteria used by customs officials in determining the declaration process for taxable items for passengers returning to Kenya through JKIA. Provide the average turnaround time for clearance of travelers by customs officials upon arrival. Clarifying reports indicating that there has been significant delays in passengers' clearance at customs section, elucidating steps the Kenya Revenue Authority is implementing to expedite and streamline these processes. State the criteria used in the review of the monetary threshold for personal items brought into the country by travelers to $500 as announced on November 10, 2023 by the KRA, stating when the review threshold will be implemented. And lastly, shed light on report of harassment of travelers by KRA staff during clearance process, stating measures being enacted to safeguard passengers from such experiences and ensure a respectful and efficient process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Dr. Lelengwe, your statement. Proceed to read your statement, Senator.
Maybe the volume of the speaker should be increased.
Request for statement on the state of Kisima Airstrip in Samburu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation regarding the deplorable state of Kisima Airstrip in Samburu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain the maintenance protocols in place at Kisima Airstrip, which is in deplorable state as a result of a long period of neglect, indicating when infrastructure improvements at the airstrip will be undertaken by the Kenya Airports Authority. And 2, outline the plans the government has to put in place, if any, to ensure that the airstrip is in operational and to the standards stipulated by the Kenya Airports Authority. Thank you.
Next is Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Request for statement, harassment and brutality by police officers of Peter Kiblimo and Irene Chemutai at Cheptulu Police Station in Amisi constituency. I raise, Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations on the harassment and brutality by the police officers on business persons Peter Kiblimo and Irene Chemutai at Cheptulu Police Station in Hamisi constituency, Vihiga County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the circumstances surrounding the brutality by police officers on Peter Kiblimo, who had gone to the police station to inquire on an irregular arrest of his kin. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, sir, explains the reasons for the arrest of businesswoman Mrs. Madam Irene Chemutai and the use of unmarked car during the arrest by the police, as well as non-arraignment in court within the stipulated times. Speaker, sir, number 3, state the actions taken against the police officers who tortured and robbed the duo after arresting them for undisclosed offenses. And finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, praise the Senate on the status of the investigation into this matter and the arrest of the police officers engaged in the harassment and brutality, if at all, including the refund of money and items stolen by the police or officers during the arrest. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
And lastly, honorable members, on statements, pass one to Standing Order 53-1, Senator Okongo Mogeni.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health on the acute shortage of anti-tuberculosis drugs countrywide. In the statement, the committee should, Mr. Speaker, sir, 1, provide detailed information on the current status of anti-tuberculosis drug shortage in the country, outlining the specific medications facing deficits and their impact on the country's health services. 2, elucidate on the primary causes contributing to the current scarcity, stating measures put in place by the government to address the issue. 3, Mr. Speaker, disclose any relevant information on the existing financial arrangements between the government of Kenya and its development partners, particularly USAID and the Global Fund, on the supply of anti-tuberculosis drugs and other essential medical commodities. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, sir, outline the remedial and preventive measures implemented by the government to tackle the crisis, clarifying whether they constitute stopgap measures or permanent solutions. Number 5, spell out initiatives, if any, undertaken by the government of Kenya to consider reliance on external donors for anti-tuberculosis drugs and other essential medical commodities. And finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, determine measures or interventions the government ought to implement to prevent similar occurrences in the future, addressing not only issues related to anti-tuberculosis treatment, but also essential medical commodities such as anti-malaria and ARV treatment. Mr. Speaker, just one point. This is a matter that is extremely serious to us as Kenyans. Tuberculosis drugs have been missing from our hospitals for the last 6 months, Mr. Speaker, sir. And
I believe you desire to comment. I will give you an opportunity once we are done with statements.
Thank you.
For general comments on all the statements which have been read this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Resume your seat, Senator Congo. And lastly, statements pass one to Standing Order 57-1, Senate Majority Leader, to give us.
National Assembly bills are pending conclusion in the Senate. A total of 29 bills are at the second reading, while 6 are at the committee of the whole stage. Mr. Speaker, sir, at post at this time, there's a request that I made, and unfortunately, I don't see the whip of the minority side, but the whip of the majority side is here, or is walking in. Mr. Speaker, that there is very important pending legislation that is at the third reading and second reading, and I enumerated last week the bills. It's my sincere request to our whips, if we could dedicate the last 2 weeks of this session to concluding on those particular bills, because, like you've noted, people, part of the things that we are measured, part of the output that we give, perhaps not many of you have had the opportunity to present the budget of Parliament, say, before the National Assembly Budget and Finance Committee. I've done it a couple of times. And part of the measures of output that we present as a House to the people of Kenya to justify why we are here, why we need the resources that they send unto us, key among them is the bills that we are transacting. It's rather low, allow me to say. In fact, next week, Senator Sifuna and Senator Boni Halwale, I'll table before the SPC of the House a comparison of where the previous 2 Senates have been at this juncture after year 1, the number of bills they had passed at that particular time, motion, so that we do a comparison. Because I believe we can even do better, because we now have learned the trade and many of us know all these things, how it needs to be done. So my humble request to the House this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, is that next week let us dedicate to conclusion of those bills. We begin with these 6 that are third reading and the 29 that are at the second reading stage. If we can conclude on those bills before we break for recess, I think it should be on the 2nd of December. Or is it on the 7th, rather? I'm not quite sure. I think 7th. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, we will have done. There are a total of 9 motions that are pending conclusion. 12 petitions have matured.
for reporting by the respective committees. In addition to this, 267 statements are pending conclusion by the standing committees. I want to urge the standing committees to hasten the consideration of this business pending their respective committees and table the reports thereon, pursuant to the standing orders. As is the standard parliamentary procedure, any motion that has not been concluded by the end of the session will lapse. Sponsors of such motions will have to refile them afresh during the next session, should they wish to prosecute the same. For this reason, I urge all movers of the motions to avail themselves in the chamber whenever their business is listed in the order paper to prosecute the same during the remainder of the session. With the same breath, as the current session of Parliament is nearing its end, I cannot overemphasize the urgent need for all honorable senators to prioritize their presence in the chambers in order to conclude on the pending business before the Senate. I want to appeal to the party whips to ensure that we have the requisite number of delegations achieved for division to be undertaken. Mr. Speaker, of course, as is a customary practice, as we near towards the break of the session, people are trying to rush, tie this or the other on many things that we are pursuing. But the humble request is that we are making is that in the next 2 weeks, next week and the week after, let us have all our delegations, Mr. Speaker, so that we conclude on all this particular business before we break for recess. Then members can organize and do all the things that they need to do for their constituents. With those statements, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you and hereby lay the table on the table of the Senate. I thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Now, honorable members, the statement hour is still available. We have consumed 25 minutes thereabouts. I know a number of members would like to ventilate and comment on the statements which have already been tabled. And for housekeeping, we've got roughly 35 minutes to comment, and I will allow members to ventilate within the 30 minutes available, and we minimize comments by members to a maximum of 3 minutes. From my dashboard, there is quite a number of you who are desirous of commenting, and we need to agree. Is 3 minutes, honorable members, reasonable enough for comments on these particular statements? Silence means concurrence. 30 minutes, 3 minutes each member, so that we ventilate on these issues. And Senator Manzo, Daniel Kitonga, you were the first in the queue. Proceed to comment on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on Honorable Cheregai's statement, and I'm very surprised that there is police brutality in his region, yet it is a Kenya Kwanza region. I thought police brutality was only to Azimio. I'm very surprised that it is cutting across the country. Recently, Mr. Speaker, you know, when there were demonstrations, the senators and the members of parliament were going to present a petition at the OP, and they were tear-gassed badly. And eventually, our security was withdrawn as part of intimidation by Kenya Kwanza, government. And I thought this police brutality was on our side. During Mandamano in Makueni, there was a young university student who was shot in a Mali, and another young man who had no idea of what was happening, was just coming from fetching water with the donkeys, and some bullet hit him, and those issues have never been addressed. Through this statement, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a high time we called the police department into order, that there be a manner and a way of operation in accordance with the Constitution, that no Kenyan should be given any police brutality, but be given a due process in the event you are suspected to have committed an offense. One should be treated in a humane manner and presumed innocent till they are proven guilty. And I think that issue of police brutality should really stop in the country. I think the Inspector General should issue a general statement to his departments, to the police stations, that police brutality should be a thing of the past. We have a new constitution, and every Kenyan should be given a due process and taken, through the process. And if they have committed an offense, either they apologize for it or they are prosecuted for it. But to hear up to this day and age, somebody who goes to ask just what has happened to their child ends up being brutalized is most unfortunate. And I thought now that it has become a police service is supposed to serve people, but not cause brutality. But for me to conclude, most important, I think denying of legislators of their security is also serious police brutality. And I think each case should be handled according to its merit. It's a way of intimidation of legislators and exposing them to danger. Yet we have no IBC to conduct any election should a member of parliament be assassinated during this time due to police brutality and lack of police protection. I thank you. I support that statement of Honorable Cheregai, and it's a high time the police took care of Kenyans. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator William Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to make comments on the statement tabled, on the reports tabled by the Chair CIPIC. Honorable Speaker, we want to thank Senate in its own wisdom, the 11th Parliament, when they came up with the CIPIC committee, because, Honorable Speaker, in the last two Senate, the 11th Parliament and the 12th Parliament, I think CIPIC focused mainly on the executive audited accounts, and the water special funds and water companies, Honorable Speaker, were left out for long without being without senators going through the reports. Honorable Speaker, for the last few months, we've gone through the water companies' special funds, and it's good to report that basically we were done with the water companies. That is why the chair was able to table for 3 financial years for about 7 water companies in 6 counties, and I believe before we break for recess, we should be able to adopt the others so that they can be tabled and be debated and the House resolves. Honorable Speaker, in the past, we've been able to assist the governors because some of the CEOs and the boards of the water companies behaved as if they were independent from the counties, not knowing that the governors are the CEOs and they're the ones in charge of these water companies, Honorable Speaker. At least we were able to help some of the counties to even dissolve boards and re-advertise and employ a board of directors for the water companies, and they ran them professionally, because in the past they were not run professional, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also what we wanted to bring to the attention of the House, Honorable Speaker, is the waterworks agencies. We have regional bodies that are in charge of this, in charge of water. And Honorable Speaker, these are national water bodies, and we have challenges, Honorable Speaker. They take loans on behalf of the water service providers. And Honorable Speaker, when they take loans, the servicing of the loans are passed to the water service providers, and sometimes they don't even know how the loans were taken up, Honorable Speaker, and even the property, motor vehicles, say land, and equipment that were bought and being paid for by the water service providers, Honorable Speaker, they are retained by the regional water bodies. Honorable Speaker, these are things that we are saying we need to look at these particular issues that we need to ensure that the House resolves, so that motor vehicles that were bought under the project be passed on to the water service provider.
Senator Osotsi Godfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me comment on the statement by Senator Cheragei regarding the police brutality on 2 persons, that is Peter Kiplimo and Irene Chemutai. Mr. Speaker, this particular police station, called Cheptul Police Station, is situated in Vihiga County. And these particular 2 individuals come from Nandi County. But this police station, Mr. Speaker, is one of those police stations whose officers have overstayed in one station. And I wonder what the Ministry of Interior is doing about this. We met the CS for Interior as leadership of Vihiga County, led by the governor, and we demanded that something has to be done about insecurity in this area. Mr. Speaker, you remember that I brought a statement in this House regarding the level of insecurity in this Cheptulu area, where one of the good hotels called the Magnum Hotel, owned by a lady, has been invaded 2 times to the extent that the lady just decided to stop the business. Mr. Speaker, all this is happening and the police station is a few meters away. So the police officers in this station must be transferred. And I want the committee that will deal with this matter to investigate, do a thorough investigation on this matter so that the culprits are not just sacked, but they should also face the law, because they even stole from these poor Kenyans. And Mr. Speaker, this is not a laughing matter. This is a very serious matter. Senator Cheregei has discussed with me this matter. And I know that police station. And I know the police officers there. 1 year ago, Mr. Speaker, we had people who were being shot in their homes using guns. Where were these guns coming from? If it was not the police using that. Mr. Speaker, I also want to comment on the reports that I've tabled today on behalf of the CPIC Committee on water. And I want to encourage members to read those reports, because this is the very, very first audited reports that are being tabled in this House on matters to do with the water service providers. We have other sets of reports that we are going to table in the next few days. But Mr. Speaker, I want to say as the chair of the CPIC that the issues noted in those reports.
Senator Karungo Tangwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to comment on the issues that will be brought to my committee. Remember, I'm the chairman, Roads, Transportation and Housing. And this is to say that as we have been doing as a committee, we are going to scrutinize the issue of Bunge Towers. If it means to invite the PSC in front of the committee, we are going to do that, because we want to know what is supposed to be done, whether what was supposed to be done will be done. The other issue of the Kisima airstrip, Mr. Speaker, today we had the Kenya Airports Authority, and we didn't have time to listen to them. Not that we were not available, but because the reports that they had brought, we had to chase them away, Mr. Speaker. This is a committee that is working really hard to make sure that our people are served. But I would want to ask the members of this House, KAA complained that they don't have a budget. They had a budget of about 763 million, but it has been cut to 300 million, Mr. Speaker. So the budget committee or the members here should push the National Assembly, if you talk to them, to make sure that they give this Kenya Airports Authority enough funds to do what they are supposed to do. Because you remember the other day, we saw the roofs leaking at JKIA and of course at Kisumu Airport. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand to say that all those statements that you are going to refer to this committee, we are going to look into them deeply and report back to this committee. Thank you. I mean, to this House.
Thank you. Senator Okech Eddie.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to very quickly comment about the statement by Senator Cheregei and also put some thoughts on the statement by the chair of my committee, CPAC, Senator Ososi. To start with, Mr. Speaker, what happened in the police station that Senator Cheregei has just talked about should not have happened. Because where we are today as a country, we should be post police brutality, post police manipulation, post police extortion, post police mistreatment of Kenyans. But what dismays me is the fact that Senator Cheregei did not stand strongly for people who are being brutalized by police, Mr. Speaker, from the beginning of this year.
in April, Mr. Speaker, we saw the highest level of police brutality, Mr. Speaker, and Senator Cherargei stood very strongly to support. As I talk right now, Mr. Speaker, my leaders in this House, Mr. Speaker, are facing a different kind of brutality. Senator Sifuna here is my leader, doesn't have security, Mr. Speaker. Doesn't have security because Senator Cherargei believes in police brutality, Mr. Speaker. If you look at my leaders like Senator Ledamo Lekina, they don't have security, Mr. Speaker. They don't have security because Senator Cherargei, Mr. Speaker, believes in police brutality, Mr. Speaker. Oh.
Order, please. There is a point of order by Cherargei.
I raise the standing order number 98. Mr. Speaker, and you know I look today like an altar boy. Standing order number 98 and 105. You know you should be responsible for statement of fact. Mr. Speaker, the allusion that Senator Cherargei supports police brutality is wrong. Because I have been a chair of JLAC and I tabled report about enforcement disappearances and extrajudicial killings in the last session. I have never supported police brutality. Mr. Speaker, can Senator Eddie Okej table evidence? Number 2, for the record of the House and the country, I'm not the Minister of Interior. I'm not the one who allocates security to Senator Sifuna or any other person. Unless they have abrogated me that power, then one you might attend, Mr. Speaker. So let us...
Order, Senator Cherargei. Senator Eddie, you take responsibility for the utterances that you make, especially that may impute some negative connotation to a colleague senator.
Mr. Speaker, if you give me time, sometimes perhaps
Eddie,
next week.
You only have got 3 minutes. You've done 2 minutes.
I haven't done 2
minute.
minutes, Mr. Speaker. My time was taken. But Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying is that if you give me time, I will produce answered in this House. When the members of minority side were suffering and were being brutalized by the police and were being chased by the police on the streets, Senator Cherargei was celebrating. Senator Cherargei was on the floor of this House talking the hardest about my suffering under the hands of the police. So he will be the last to bring the issue of police brutality here. But that said, Mr. Speaker, the issue of police brutality must be dealt with for once and for all. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I wanted to comment just on the issue of water, Mr. Speaker, that was tabled here by the Senator for Vihiga. The Senator for Vihiga has tabled here a very good order report, Mr. Speaker, and the last 1 year we have spent time as committee working on the issues of water companies in our counties, Mr. Speaker. I think, Mr. Speaker, it will be very important that as a House, we stand very strongly behind those order reports and make sure that we take the issue of water provision from the water agencies in this country, Mr. Speaker, and give them back to counties so that counties can take full control of water provision and water services in our economy, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the statement by Senator Omogeni. Honorable Speaker, on the shortage of tuberculosis drugs in the country. Honorable Speaker, as a Senate Standing Committee for Health, we have had opportunity to visit various counties. We had opportunity to visit Bomet County, Honorable Speaker, your county, and we visited Longisa Sub-County Hospital and Bomet Referral Hospital. We had opportunity to visit Nyamira Level 4 facility and Level 5. We had the opportunity to visit Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital and a number of Level 4 facilities. Honorable Speaker, to our surprise, in the course of our inspection, we actually came across patients who have been diagnosed with TB, but they lack the necessary drugs. And in some situations, Honorable Speaker, even the cartridges for testing TB were not available. Honorable Speaker, today as a Committee for Health, we had the opportunity to interview the family of baby Yasin, whose fingers were amputated at Kirinyaga Referral Hospital. Honorable Speaker, that child was presented to Kirinyaga Level 4 Hospital, and the diagnosis that was made is that of pneumonia. Only for the baby, Honorable Speaker, to be diagnosed with TB in a private facility. Honorable Speaker, this is a very serious matter of national interest, and I will be seeking your direction, Honorable Speaker, that you give direction so that the Ministry of Health, the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, can be summoned within short notice, Honorable Speaker, because this is exposing the country to a very dangerous dreaded disease that can spread and can make it difficult to be contained thereafter, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I support this statement that the Ministry of Health and KEMSA should actually provide very explicit and clear information on the procurement of TB drugs, on the issue of sustainability of supply, and whether counties can be allowed to procure these drugs from the necessary suppliers, Honorable Speaker, whenever there are shortages. This is not a matter that should be left to the ministry to debate on their own, Honorable Speaker. It needs the indulgence of this House to actually pursue this matter. Tuberculosis is among the diseases globally, and even here in Kenya, Honorable Speaker, that are supposed to be eradicated. Without testing, without the necessary drugs to manage the already tested and identified citizens who are suffering from TB, Honorable Speaker, we risk the spread of TB in the country in times that will make it difficult for this nation to proceed. Thank you.
Senator Beth Siango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to support the statement by Senator, my friend, Senator Cherargei of Nandi County. It is true that police brutality is a real problem in this nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, I remember a few months ago when I was sent out of this house and police were on my neck. I ran as far as Kitui South and they still followed me there. I had to switch off my phones. I had to change location because of police brutality. Were it not for Kamba environment, that the same policemen were sent away by WASIP, it was serious. Yes. When they came and camped outside the church where I was conducting the meeting, then WASIP landed on them, and the first one to be stung was the OCS. Mr. Speaker, sir, when the leadership and the members of the minority side were harassed by the same police, when we were sent out, when we were chased along the streets, Senator Cherargei was celebrating. He didn't know that a time will come that will also speak on the same. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's my suggestion and my opinion that even as we make laws, even as we contribute to motions and statements, we should think what is affecting us today will affect you tomorrow. I remember a renowned leader in this nation once said that the government eats its own people. It is coming that even the leadership and the people in Kenya Kwanza, are also going to suffer from what they thought was meant only for Azimio side. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would request that in the future, as moving forward, we need clear policies, clear legislation to camp and to control police brutality. It is unfortunate. They are our people, they are our sons and fathers and brothers, but we need them to be called to order so that we may have disciplined forces, disciplined policemen in this nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chimera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to make comments on the statement as sought by my good friend, Senator Cherargei, the great warrior from Nandi County, who, by the way, is my brother-in-law. And, Mr. Speaker, it appears as if the question of police brutality is a stench that is assuming a sense of normalcy. That it actually stops being a stench and it becomes a normal thing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the 15th of September this year, Mr. Speaker, a young man from Kwale County, a place called Taru, by the name Nyae Ngala Chamtu, lost his life at the hands of very brutal GSU officers in Taru, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we raise questions. And there's this body called the Independent Police Oversight Authority, Mr. Speaker. They never even bothered to issue a statement, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for how long will we lose innocent lives of Kenyans at the hands of police brutality, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, it is time, as a nation, as a leadership, we walk the talk on seriously addressing the issue of police brutality, Mr. Speaker. And I want to agree with most of the members here that perhaps it is time we have a regulation, some sort of legal framework addressing this issue. Otherwise, many Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, will continue to suffer and lose lives at the hands of these police officers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to urge the committee that will be tasked with the role and honorable duty of getting to the root cause of this problem, Mr. Speaker. I want to appeal to those members of that committee, Mr. Speaker, to thoroughly investigate these incidences. I know it is not happening in Nandi County alone. It is just by sheer luck that the Senator of Nandi has brought this issue before this House, Mr. Speaker. But we have many cases happening in many other counties. Kwale County, for that instance, Mr. Speaker, Mombasa County, and many other counties. But they're not reported, Mr. Speaker. It is time these police officers face the full force of the law so that it acts as a deterrent measures, so that the rest of the other officers will actually know it is wrong to continue maiming and killing innocent Kenyans in the name of police brutality, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support Mr. Speaker.
Senator Ojenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Let me contribute to from the dispatch desk on the two statements that have been presented this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will start with the water companies. Mr. Speaker, sir, this afternoon the Senate has adopted reports, or the chair of CIPIC has tabled reports for Matsi Water Services Limited, Bomet Water Company, Gusii Water Company, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company, Kwale and Nyeri Water Sanitation Company from Nyeri County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is important to note that as a committee, because I'm the vice chair of CIPIC, a number of reforms have been proposed to the management of water companies, and perhaps it is time that this Senate, after looking at the report, notes that it is time that the framework of the management or administration of water as a resource is changed so that counties take a firmer control. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is because of the framework of law under the Water Act 2016 that seems one, Mr. Speaker, not to have transitioned completely. We have water companies that have not yet transitioned, where assets are still owned and controlled by the waterworks, where debts are clearly not set out. You have debt secured by the waterworks or the boards previously existing, and a framework that has not empowered counties. Counties are therefore operating from an unclear footing. And Mr. Speaker, sir, this Senate would need to rise to the occasion and deal with these water companies so that counties take a firmer control. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is also time that counties are empowered. I note that time is up to take charge of these companies for the benefit of the people so that they can remove some of the bottlenecks in the provision of water as a service to our people. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to support the reports fully. Lastly, on the police brutality, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is perhaps time to adopt the Maraga report on some of the reforms so that we deal with all these questions raised. Mr. Speaker, sir, we cannot blame the police wholly for some of the questions or ills that we see. The plight of the police also need addressing by this country. Police play a central role in providing security to this country, and I think in as much as we criticize the police for some of the excesses, Mr. Speaker, sir, the plight of the police needs addressing. We need to make the conditions of living of the police not only better, Mr. Speaker, sir, but also, Mr. Speaker, sir, we need to also address the remuneration of police officers, at least at the levels that have been proposed by the task force.
Majority Leader. Senator Aaron Turiat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to comment on two statements. Number one is a statement by Senator Chute on Bunge Towers. Mr. Speaker, when I left the commission, we had done everything that was needed for members to occupy that house. The only thing that was remaining was actually furniture. It's been now 1.5 years after the present PSC has come into office. I don't seem to see any serious movement on that particular building. It would be of interest to know why members. You know, the term of a member of parliament is very important, Mr. Speaker. There are many members that had believed they'll get an office in that building when they came here in 2017. It unfortunately did not happen. In fact, many of them used to challenge me on the corridors of parliament and say, allow me to occupy this building. It may be the only thing I'll be showing my children that one time I was a member in this house. Because now you can imagine, if you tell them KICC, everybody lives there, Mr. Speaker, and you know, unless you serve in leadership to have an office here in Parliament, the rest are extremely difficult. Continental House is not an office that you want to show, where members sit together with the secretary, the bodyguard, everybody in one room. So it's really not conducive how members are conducting their duties. So I want to urge the committee that will be charged with that responsibility to really take the current PSC to task and have firm timelines, Mr. Speaker. I've seen their budget, which has grown tremendously. But unfortunately, I think we need to pass a resolution of the House banning all travel by members of PSC until the day they will allow members to serve in that particular office. Then we can allow them to travel after that. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I'd wish that my good friend Sifuna can take time to explain to his colleagues from the minority side the provisions of Article 249. The command of the police service is such that it is independent. So there is no government side and minority side on who can direct police on what to do. It's a basic constitutional doctrine, Mr. Speaker. So I am troubled when I see my friend Eddie and Beth Yengo try to say the majority side should do this or the other. Police brutality has been with us. This Senator Cherargei that you are ridiculing was the biggest victim last time, and it used to be celebrated here. In fact, every other Friday afternoon, I used to tell him, instead of going to Nandi, just go straight to Kisumu police station where you'll end up finding yourself in. So this is something that we need to all confront with concerted effort without the little doses of politics that sometimes make this effort watered down. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I personally believe that all of us are born with ability to tell right from wrong. And the Speaker, the statement from Senator Cherargei gives me an opportunity to say this, Mr. Speaker. I have absolute faith in every member of this House. It will take time, but you will come to see the light, that what is right and what is wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter who's the victim of a police brutality. It is wrong because Kenyans envisaged a service, moving away from a force. And what has happened in the past, Mr. Speaker, we don't begrudge anyone on the majority side. We understand why you have to do what you do all the time. When you see police bludgeoning us in the streets, we understand why you need to celebrate. But the good thing is that in the fullness of time, I can see the light is shining all the way on the majority side, is starting on this side. Senator Mungatana was the first to see the light. Senator Khalwale these days is very reasonable. I can see now my brother Cherargei, soon it will get to Karen and the majority leader. Because the problem we have, Mr. Bwana Majority Leader, my brother, is that although the Constitution expresses the police as having independent command, when we see pronouncements from senior members of the executive, for instance, the CS for Interior, Kindiki, when we were protesting and he's the one assigning timelines, he says by 5 a.m., the police will be there to deal with Sifuna and his crooks. That's what he used to do. When we see people like Gachagua saying we will crush these people, then we question ourselves about the independence of the police. And the IG of police repeats and echoes the things that are coming from the executive. Then that line between the police and the executive becomes blurred. We will condemn every single incident where police are abusing their power. I am not in the habit, by the way, of laughing at people who used to laugh at me. Because I think my mission in this life I think I will be at ease, at peace, Mr. Speaker, the day all of us join us in the minority in saying we must have a country that works for everyone, that respects rule of law, irrespective of who you are, Mr. Speaker, so that a person being bludgeoned in Nandi by police should have the same rights as a person being bludgeoned in Nyalenda. And we should all come out and condemn it and say, this is not the service we wanted. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the statement by Senator Christopher Asige, as a member of the Transport Committee, we had a meeting with NTSA and the police command in terms of traffic. And Mr. Speaker, they assured us that Kenyans can rest easy this Christmas season. In my other life, they called me the Minister for Enjoyment, Waziri wa Sherehe in Kiswahili. Mr. Speaker, we don't want this harassment we see on the roads, especially during the festive seasons. And we were looking at the data that they presented to us. Just 1 minute, please. The data that was presented to us, Mr. Speaker, it does not support some of the efforts we see in terms of what causes road accidents.
Senator Sifuna, your time is up. Senator Veronica, lastly, as we close on this chapter.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to support the statement by Senator Mohammed Chute on the Bunge Towers, Mr. Speaker. If there is an institution that should set an example in accountability, it should be Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, when I look at Bunge Towers, that's a very small project in the Republic of Kenya. Small within the context of the whole Republic, because budgets are being made in Parliament, they are being passed in Parliament to affect the 47 counties. I must say, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't look good at all that Bunge Towers, after very many years, that it has not been completed, Mr. Speaker. I would hope, Mr. Speaker, that even as this statement is being committed to the committee, Mr. Speaker, that is supposed to respond to it, Mr. Speaker, that the people responsible for this project will see the need not to find another statement before this House or before the National Assembly checking on the completion of Bunge Towers. And if it is too difficult, Mr. Speaker, we can help them. I have been involved in projects, Mr. Speaker, and I must say as a senator, instead of this eyesore of a project not being completed within a timeline, Bunge is one place, Parliament is one place where if we say a project should take 24 months, it should not take 24 months and 2 weeks. It should take exactly 24 months so we can set the best practice for counties when we come to accountability, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe there are people who have slept on their job. They need to be called out for sleeping on their job, Mr. Speaker, and there is no good reason why this has not been completed. Let me also comment, Mr. Speaker, on another statement that has been brought before this House regarding the scholarships awarded to 40 women in Marsabit County to pursue bachelor's degree in education. It is also not correct, Mr. Speaker, that such an issue involving scholarships that are awarded actually by Ford Foundation have to come to a discussion or have to be converted into another fund or another factor. We need to have the discipline as a nation, physical discipline, Mr. Speaker, that if a fund is committed by a development partner towards fulfilling a certain objective to educate 40 women in Marsabit County, the only thing we should expect to see, Mr. Speaker, from such a county or from such a scholarship award should be the 40 women graduating. So I hope whatever explanation is going to come back to the floor of this House.
Senator Veronica, your time is up. Now, honorable members, we've run out of time for the statement period, and I note there are still a good number of members who would have wished to contribute, but we must progress to the next order, and in the circumstances we will close at that. And the statement by Senator Chute regarding Bunge Tower is committed to the Standing Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing. The other statement by Senator Chute again is committed to Standing Committee on Education. Statement by Senator Hezena to Health Committee, and the statement by Senator Shakila to Finance and Budget Committee. Similarly, the statement by Senator Lelengwe is to Transport Committee, Cherargei to the Security Committee, and lastly, the statement by Senator Mogeni is committed to the Health Committee. Honorable members, that brings us to that end. Clerk, you may call the next order. Honorable members, before we go to the next order, I have got a communication from the chair regarding visiting delegation from Elgonview Vocational and Training College, Migori campus in Migori County. Honorable members, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, visiting delegation of 1 lecturer and 16 students from Elgonview Vocational and Training College, Migori campus in Migori County. The delegation is in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. And the Senator for Migori County is just getting into the chamber. I will give you in under 1 minute to welcome the visiting delegation from the great county of Migori.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was looking forward to this moment because I was with the youngsters as they were trying to screen them, were being screened into the premises of Parliament. And I think that it is a very, very big privilege to welcome them to this house. This is the house where we debate a lot of laws that do affect you, and mostly, laws that are dealing with counties and how our counties are run, how our counties get resources, and how our counties can be better. So I hope you learn from members of Parliament here, as well as, get to learn from outside the premises. There are a lot of things to learn from here, but most importantly, this is also where the values of the nation is nurtured. This is where we get to see some of the leaders that, you see sometimes talking on TV, like my leader here, Senator Sifuna, who I hope that at some moment I will talk to him to greet you in a very good tradition of Parliament. And I'm very happy that today also we have got the majority of the House who should also be able to greet you in a very good habit of the House. But most importantly, we welcome you to learn about the debates that you are having and the issues that we are sharing here. And when you go home, please do pass our great regards as a House, and my regards particularly. I welcome you to the Senate of Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Eddie. Clerk, call the next order.
Order number 8, motion on the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the application for conferment of city status to the municipality of Eldoret Division.
This order, honorable members, is deferred to the next session. Next order.
Order number 9, the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill, Senate Bills number 30 of 2023 Division.
Similarly, honorable senators, the order is deferred to the next sitting.
Order number 10, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bills number 29 of 2023 Division.
Honorable members, similarly, that particular bill is deferred for division in the next sitting.
Order number 11, the Coffee Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2023 Division.
Honorable members, Coffee Bill is equally deferred to the next sitting for purposes of division. Next order.
Order number 12, the Prevention of Livestock and Produce Theft Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2023.
Senator Cherargei, this is your bill. Proceed to reply. Debate was closed on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. From the onset, I want to thank you and your office, and also to thank many senators who have contributed on the Prevention of Livestock and Produce Theft Bill 2023. So, Speaker, I want to say I'm grateful for your office, for the facilitation, and Senate Business Committee for scheduling my bill. Mine is just to reply, but before I reply, I make a few comments, Mr. Speaker, sir. Allow me to recognize a number of colleague senators who are able to speak to this bill, and also appreciate and put on record, Mr. Speaker, sir. So, Speaker, sir, I want to thank Senator Peris Tobiko, who was the second of the bill, Senator Fatuma Dulo, Senator William Cheptumo, Senator Mohammed Chute, Senator Enoch Wambua, Senator Chimera Raphael, Senator Mohammed Abbas, Senator Edwin Sifuna, Senator Karungo Atangwa, Senator Ezena Lemaletian, Senator Joe Nyutu Muranga, Senator Oburu Odinga, Senator Sheikh Omar, Senator Okenyuri, Senator Maanzo, Senator Seki, Senator Omtata Andrew Okoiti,
to Clause 2 of the County Government Additional Allocation Bill number 23 of 2023 be now approved. I put the question that the Senate amendments to Clause 2 of the County Additional Allocations Bill 23 of 2023 be now approved. As another opinion say aye. As another opinion say nay. The nays have it.
Senate amendment to Clause 1.
I propose the question that Senate amendments to Clause 1 of the County Government Additional Allocations Bill 23 of 2023 be now approved. I put the question that the Senate amendments relating to Clause 1 of the County Government Additional Allocations Bill 23 of 2023 be now approved. As another opinion say aye. As another opinion say nay. The nays have it. Honourable members, that marks the end of the Committee of the All on the County Government Additional Allocations Bill 23 of 2023. We now move for reporting. Mover, the Chair, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Senate amendments to the County Government Additional Allocation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2023, and its approval thereof.
With amendments.
With amendments.
Okay. Thank you. Members, I now put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Senate amendments to the County Government Additional Allocation Bill, National Bill number 23 of 2023, with amendments. As many other opinions say aye. As many other opinions say nay. The ayes have it. Huh?
Order, members, you may resume your seats. Order, members. Order, resume your seats. Honorable Kaluma, please. Resume your seats, honorable members. Chairperson.
Honorable Speaker. This is fine. Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Senate Amendments Bill to the County Government Additional Allocation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2023, and approved the same with amendments.
Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to request the Honorable Member for Gilgil, the Honorable Mother Wagari, to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable Martha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Is it the mood of the House that I put the question? Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, I will now put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it.
Next one.
Honorable members, before I call out the next order, may I inform the House that the effect of what you've done is that that bill is now committed to mediation. And indeed, the substantive speaker will be naming the mediation committee to deal with the matter. Also, let me inform the House that this is the ordinary and normal business of the House. And it gives a chance for the senators and the members of this House who will be nominated to that particular committee to have a session, mediate, and agree on a way forward, which will then be adopted by both Houses. Next order.
Order number 10, motion. Loans contracted by the national government between May 2022 and April 2023.
Leader. Order. Chair. Deputy Committee. Are you moving? Yes. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that.
Order. Leader, you may approach the clerks. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the loans contracted by the national government between May 2022 and April 2023, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 28 September 2023. Honourable Speaker, I would like to thank the members of Parliament from the Public Debt and Privatization Committee for their steadfast resolve to consider the loans report submitted to Parliament and table this comprehensive report for consideration by the House. Honourable Speaker, pursuant to Section 31(1) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, the National Treasury and Economic Planning submitted to the National Assembly 3 reports on new loans contracted by the national government for the following periods. 1. 1st May 2022 to 31st August 2022. 2. 1st September to 31st of December 2022. 3. 1st January 2023 to 30th of April 2023. Honourable Speaker, as per the reports, a total of 19 externally financed loans totaling to Kenya shillings 213 billion were signed between the national government and international creditors in various currencies between May 2022 and April 2023. Honourable Speaker, by the time these reports were tabled before the National Assembly, only 3 of the 19 loans were partially disbursed, thus indicating an estimated disbursement rate of only 11%. The partially disbursed loans were primarily commercial loans totaling Kenya shillings 24.2 billion. Honourable Speaker, due to the low disbursement rate, 89% of the loan resources remained under the accounts of the creditors, despite being signed for. Honourable Speaker, it is therefore noted that there is need to increase the rate of disbursement of the loans acquired if the budgeted expenditures to be financed in full and projects are to be completed on time. This will also be beneficial in addressing the ongoing liquidity and foreign exchange imbalances arising from high debt servicing expenditure, stimulate the economic development, and eventually promote public debt sustainability. Honourable Speaker, an intentional policy initiative should target increasing the rate of disbursement of concessional loans from bilateral and multilateral lenders due to their low cost and grace periods. Concessional loans have lower repayment pressures and thus allow borrowing to be undertaken with a reasonable impact on debt sustainability indicators. Additionally, disbursement of concessional loans is critical for projects with low repaying capacity, e.g. social and climate change projects, but contribute to economic development. Honourable Speaker, while the submission of loans report to Parliament is a good step, there is need to enhance transparency and accountability on loans acquired by the national government. As such, the submission of full and complete information is critical in ensuring full oversight of any public debt-related activities. Honourable Speaker, during the review of the report, it was noted that information pertaining to loan balances brought forward, carried down, amortizations, and borrowings undertaken by national government entities were among key pieces of information left out of the reports. This made it hard to determine the overall impact of the loans acquired on the overall debt stock. Honourable Speaker, there is need to go beyond the parameters set for oversight and apply innovation in order to achieve effective and efficient use of resources for the country. This can be done through the submission of project-specific information when the reports are submitted to Parliament. Honourable Speaker, there are benefits to this end. First and foremost, this will enable the National Assembly to review the quality of projects financed by loans contracted and therefore firm up the repayment capacity of the country, streamline the project assessment and the appraisal process. Secondly, this will guarantee the efficient utilization of resources, maximize the benefits accruable from the selected projects before the commencement of the loan repayment. Honourable Speaker, this will promote confidence in national government processes and public debt regulatory institutions, which may ultimately contribute to the reduction of borrowing costs by our international development partners. Honourable Speaker, after consultative engagements, the committee makes several recommendations for consideration by the House. To mention but a few, the committee recommends: 1. Subsequent reports to be submitted by the National Treasury should ensure full compliance with Section 31(1) and 3 of the PFM Act 2012, and in particular, the National Treasury should ensure that the reports indicate all loans made to the national government entities, county governments, as well as loan balances brought forward, carried down, drawings, and amortizations on new loans. 2, quarterly reporting on project program loans should be guided by program-based budgeting principles, and the respective project evaluation, appraisal, assessment reports should be attached. 3, in order to facilitate oversight of debt and to promote transparency and accountability of loans, contracts entered into, the National Treasury should attach the contract signed against its submitted report, should not enter into any contract that does not adhere to the principles of public finance as set under Article 201 of the Constitution. 4, the National Treasury should address factors that affect timely and full disbursement of loans, of loan financing, and submit a report to the National Assembly within 60 days of the adoption of this report, indicating actions taken to increase the efficient disbursement of loan financing. And 5, within 90 days, the National Treasury should fully digitize the loan approval and monitoring system to enhance reporting, transparency, and accountability. This should also include training of technical personnel and the establishment of a system that is accessible to other public finance management institutions such as CBK, the Office of the Controller of Budget, and the Office of the Auditor General. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, the committee also noted that reforms relating to public debt management have lagged behind, even as strides have been made in other areas of public finance management, such as the enhancement of procedures for revenue collection and expenditure determinations. As such, the committee is dedicated to addressing the gaps that are prevalent in the legal framework relating to reporting, transparency, and accountability in loan acquisition, and the efficient use of the same, and will continuously present policy recommendations for consideration by this House. Honorable Speaker, I therefore beg to move and request Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, MP, the Vice Chair of the Committee, to second. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Dr. Makali.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me first of all thank my chairman for that very good moving of the motion, and say that the matter we are discussing, Honorable Speaker, is a very important matter in this country. As we are all aware, public debt has actually become the elephant in the room. Every Kenyan is talking about it. Every government official is talking about it. And that's why this report becomes very important. And I really would want to urge my colleagues, the honorable members, to take very seriously the recommendations of this report, because it provides a roadmap as we move to the future. Honorable Speaker, even if the world go, you have heard my chair say that we have signed about 11 loans for the period we are discussing, and only 3 have been dispersed, Honorable Speaker. Meaning, Honorable Speaker, that the normal challenge we have been discussing as a House, the challenge of paying commitment fee for loans which are not dispersed, will continue being with us. How I wish, Honorable Speaker, that this House would make a resolution so that after this report is adopted by the House, we are able to summon all the MDAs who have borrowed money from different countries and they are not being used, because Treasury would normally sign for the loans, but in terms of implementation, Honorable Speaker, it is the MDAs who are expected to implement. Honorable Speaker, you'll be surprised to learn that some MDAs have even taken more than 10 years to withdraw loans which have been signed for. Honorable Speaker, I really want to urge colleagues to support us so that such MDAs are summoned immediately after this report is adopted by the committee, so that they are able to explain to this House why are they not drawing the money and what reasons are making them not draw the money. And if the reasons are not really clear enough to the House, Honorable Speaker, that such loans can be cancelled. The other issue which is important, Honorable Speaker, is as a House, we all passed the MDS, the medium-term debt strategy, is approved by this House. And Honorable Speaker, we are saying, despite the fact that we approve this document, we have realized is like there is a gap where at times we are approving this document, but we don't have a very specific list in terms of what is going to be funded. As we move to the future, Honorable Speaker, my recommendation would be, as a House, by the time Treasury is submitting the medium-term debt strategy, they also submit a specific list of projects and programs that will be funded within that year, so that as a House, we know what is going to be funded, and then we can oversight effectively. The other matter which is important, Honorable Speaker, is the matter of counterpart funding. Most of these loans, when they have been signed, the government is expected to fund part of the loan through what we call counterpart funding, Honorable Speaker. And we have realized that there are loans where the government would sign, and the issue of counterpart funding is not factored into our annual budget process. So I think it is very important, Honorable Speaker, if we get a listing of all these projects which are going to be funded through loans, then we can make sure that as a committee also, such a projects are also, we ensure that there is counterpart funding for those specific projects, so that we don't have loans which have been signed, Honorable Speaker, and then, Honorable Speaker, we don't have the counterpart funding, meaning we can even not withdraw the funds. The other matter, Honorable Speaker, which is important, I think from our interaction with some of these MDAs and Treasury, it's emerging that, Honorable Speaker, I think the technical capacity of our people to negotiate for loans effectively is being put into doubt. And I think it is important, Honorable Speaker, that we also make provision as a House that our technical capacity for those who negotiate for these loans, we build that capacity to a level that the country gets value for the loans. Because, Honorable Speaker, if people who are negotiating for these loans don't have the right capacity, then that's why you see the gaps we are experiencing as a country. Honorable Speaker, this matter of the central bank overdraft, which we also picked, Honorable Speaker, where the law allows that Treasury can borrow up to a maximum 5% of the national revenue as an overdraft from the central bank. And any normal overdraft, Honorable Speaker, the way it operates, even your own personal overdraft, is that any time you get money, you reduce it to zero, then from there you start building again, up to a specific time, it's supposed to go to zero. So on annual basis, as we cross from one financial year to another, the expectation, Honorable Speaker, should be the National Treasury or the government crosses the year, the financial year, with zero in terms of overdraft facility. But historically, we have realized that every year they are crossing the year with about 80% of overdraft, which means, Honorable Speaker, they have a very small space, borrowing space in terms of what is remaining, because if, for example, now we are at 80 billion, and they have borrowed about 72 billion by the closure of the year, and they don't really clear that to go to zero, it means the following year they will have only about 8 billion to borrow. And this makes the issue of cash management, cash flow management, very complicated, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, this report is bringing out very important issues, which as a House we need to agree with and support this important committee so that we get value for these loans. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, this is what I want to say, Honorable Speaker. The issue of loans, and more so domestic loans and the external loans, we realize that now over time, the government is reverting so much to domestic borrowing. Honorable Speaker, domestic borrowing is good, it's easier to accomplish. But I want to tell the Kenyans that with domestic borrowing, Honorable Speaker, the challenge is the interest rates. Currently, our interest rates are about 15%, Honorable Speaker, while concessional loans would get them to a tune of 2.5% or 3%. So there is very important that we get a delicate balance, Honorable Speaker, in terms of these borrowing ratios, so that we don't overburden Kenyans by having, and when you borrow domestically also, Honorable Speaker, there is also the matter of crowding out the private sector, because the government starts competing with the private sector, the small-scale industries, the individuals, and it is obvious that if you compete with the government in terms of borrowing, the government will always get that first priority in terms of lending. So it is important, Honorable Speaker, we get that ratio right so that we allow our small-scale industries and factories and individuals to borrow from our local banks, and then the government can try to borrow from externally from other countries. In that case, then we'll be helping this country, Honorable Speaker, and the matter of public debt still remains a very contentious matter, is a very critical matter in this country, and as a House, anything which will help us push this agenda forward, Speaker, and more so, reducing public debt is very important. Honorable Speaker, we all do observe the supplementary budget we have just passed. We have moved the budget deficit from 4.4% to 5.3%, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. So long as we are increasing our budget deficit, we'll have no choice but to continue borrowing. It is time we went for fiscal consolidation and more so reducing the budget deficit to the expected rates, which are normally around 3%. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second. Thank you.
Honorable members, order. Order. You need to listen to this so that you may make decisions that are accurate. Honorable members, I propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of the loans contracted by the national government between May 2022 and April 2023, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 28th September 2023. Who takes the first bite? Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I rise to support this committee's report, the Committee on Public Debt, and particularly, Honorable Speaker, thank the Chair, Honorable Shuria, and his very able Vice Chair, the Honorable Makali Mulu, who, Honorable Chair, when I last passed by Kitui City, I heard is a prospective governor in the county of Kitui. And I would tell the people of Kitui, they would never have a better governor if that time ever came than the Honorable Makali Mulu. And he has done very well, not just as the Vice Chair to Honorable Shuria, together with Honorable Shuria in this debt committee, but also in our Budget and Appropriations Committee. And let me take this opportunity to thank them, together with all the other members of the Public Debt Committee, including the very agile and able member for Kinangop, the Honorable Kwenya Thuku, who has been a very active member of this committee and making sure that indeed they do their work in oversighting our public debt position in the country and making sure that they put the National Treasury on its toes and ensuring that the National Treasury, as they have put in this report, Honorable Speaker, the National Treasury is not only submitting all the reports that they ought to submit to the House, but also doing so in a timely manner. And Honorable Speaker, I have noted many of the observations and recommendations that the committee have made in their report, and particularly, Honorable Speaker, those that relate to the reports under Section 31, 1 and 3 of the PFM Act of 2012. And Honorable Speaker, these reports are indeed very critical, not just to the workings of the House and the Debt Committee, but also the Budget and Appropriations Committee as well as the Finance Committee, because these reports will help to inform the House, and particularly these committees as they interact with the country's finances, the level of indebtedness of the country, and be able to measure whether in the subsequent financial year the country will be able to enter into more debt, into higher or lower levels of debt than it were in a particular year that the National Treasury should be reporting. Honorable Speaker, it is important, as the committee has noted in its recommendations, that these reports are brought to the House on a quarterly basis. Honorable Speaker, there is a reason why the drafters of the PFM Act of 2012 require that these reports are submitted on a quarterly basis, Honorable Speaker, because, as I mentioned, Honorable Speaker, the timely submission and consumption of reports by the House will help to inform ourselves and the country where we are in terms of our debt level, so that we don't find ourselves in a position where we continue getting into debt problems without knowledge, because we don't have timely and accurate information at the right time. Honorable Speaker, I must re-emphasize, as the committee has emphasized in its report, that the National Treasury, upon adoption of this report, must ensure that all these reports are submitted from the first to the fourth quarter of every year in line with the fiscal or calendar year of our financial year from July 1st to the end of June, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also particularly noted a recommendation by the committee that says that upon adoption of this report, the National Treasury should prioritize the sourcing and disbursement of concessionary finance. And this concessional finance, Honorable Speaker, contains what they have noted, a grant element, implying that larger borrowing can be sourced within minimum impact on debt sustainability by reducing the refinancing and interest rate risk. Honorable Speaker, I note this particular recommendation because as it is today, we have had a problem, Honorable Speaker, and in the supplementary budget one that we passed last week, Honorable Speaker, and who was appropriations bill you passed on Tuesday, members will remember us noting that within that supplementary estimates bill, a figure of about 143 to 145 billion is on account of the financing risk that comes with exchange rate fluctuations, Honorable Speaker, within this calendar year or this financial year, Honorable Speaker. And it's therefore important that the National Treasury seeks to pursue loans that are more concessional in nature so that we enjoy those lower interest rates and we also don't expose ourselves to the financing risks and interest rate risk that we have previously exposed ourselves to. Honorable Speaker, these reports, Honorable Speaker, will also help not only to inform the country, the House, but the country also. I had occasion this morning, Honorable Speaker, to interact with a young Kenyan, a trader in Nyamakima, who told me that she was keenly listening to one of the local FM stations. And I have no fear in mentioning the station because it's Kameme FM, Honorable Speaker. And this Kameme FM, a presenter who I actually know hails from my constituency and is illiterate. Because he's a class 8 dropout who has no understanding of anything finance. And the presenter was misinforming the country and listeners on Kameme FM that this country has borrowed to the tune of 4.5 trillion in this financial year, Honorable Speaker. And a young trader in Nyamakima had the logic to decipher that if our budget is in the region of 3-point-something trillion, there is no way the country would have borrowed 4.5 trillion within a period of 1 year. Honorable Speaker, that is why the National Treasury must ensure that these reports are brought to the House and to the Public Debt Committee on a timely basis. Because the moment these reports come to the House, they help to inform Kenyans on the right debt position of the country so that we avoid situations where illiterate radio presenters, like those ones in Kamehameha FM, are misinforming Kenyans. And Honorable Speaker, you would understand why a presenter, based on the ownership of Kameme FM, why a presenter would be intent on deliberately misinforming the country on the level of debt and the level of indebtedness that this current administration has gotten into, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, factual and accurate information in accounting and in economics is critical in decision making. And even this House will not be able to make decisions. Even the National Treasury will not be able to make credible decisions without factual, accurate, and timely reporting and information at the right time, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the committee, if you look at their recommendation 8.8, also says that the National Treasury should address factors that affect timely and full disbursement of loan financing and submit a report to the National Assembly within 60 days of the adoption of this report, indicating actions taken to increase the efficient disbursement of loan financing. Honorable Speaker, let me take this opportunity again to commend the Public Debt Committee. And it tells you that the members of this Public Debt Committee, and Honorable Speaker, you can see them. Unlike other committees where their reports are debated and members are not there, the chair is here, the vice chair is here, and I must commend them again for their able leadership. Honorable Speaker, yourself presiding this session, you are this debt committee. The Honorable Dawood is a member of this committee. The Honorable Kwenya Dhuku is a member of the committee. Honorable Speaker, it is good that we are debating. I saw the Honorable Makilapa, I think he has stepped out also, who is also a member of this committee. And I am saying, yes, and Honorable Abraham Kirwa. It tells you that these members of this committee have been diligent in their work, and I must commend them. Because unlike many other committees, Honorable Speaker, where reports are tabled, the chair tables the report, has no seconder. You saw the chair has moved, the vice chair was there, and at least not less than half of the membership of the committee are in the House to debate their report. It tells you the diligence, Honorable Speaker. And I speak to this particular recommendation on 8.8, Honorable Speaker, on the slow disbursement of loan financing, because as a former chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, and the Honorable Dindi Nyoro, if he had also been patient after doing his business to sit in the House and also be able to consume part of these things, because they affect our budgeting process. And the Honorable Makali Mulu will bear me witness. At the time I chaired the Budget Committee, one of the key issues that we would always raise was the slow disbursement of loan financing. And in fact, our loan books carry such huge amounts of loans that are not being disbursed on a timely basis. Some, the government of Kenya also has not given the counterpart funding, and the amounts remain in the loan books, not being able to implement projects, Honorable Speaker, because of the counterpart funding. And Honorable Speaker, I will really want to ask the Honorable Shuria and his committee to ensure that indeed within the 60 days that you have recommended upon adoption of this report, that the National Treasury informs the House what are the handicaps that makes them not be able to absorb debt financing, some of which, Honorable Speaker, at times come with penalties when you do not consume this money on a timely basis, Honorable Speaker. Two, Honorable Speaker, Kenyans who borrowed this money or who the government borrowed this money on their behalf are not able to enjoy the services and the goods that have been provided through that timely disbursement of this money, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I'll be very keen in the course of early next year, and in fact, the 60 days, if we're able to adopt this report within this session, will fall around the time that we resume from the long recess, and just in time before the annual estimates for the next financial year. And I want to encourage the Public Debt Committee to ensure that even as we scrutinize the budget estimates for next year, and even as you start working on the BPS, that you have this report so that you are able to interrogate even the figures that will come to before you for the next financial year with information as to what are the handicaps that ensure, or rather that slow down the full disbursement of our loan financing. Honorable Speaker, let me conclude, Honorable Speaker, by correcting the misnomer, not that just being perpetuated by illiterate radio presenters at Kamehameha FM, but what is also used in political funerals and political gatherings on the level of our indebtedness. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, only this Monday or Tuesday, on Tuesday actually, on Monday, Honorable Speaker, I hear there's a point of order, and I truly hope that the person asking the point of order can indicate leader on what standing order they are raising.
Honorable member, relax. I've heard you. What's your point of order?
Which standing order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm a journalist by profession. I went to school. You can differ on opinions, but not to be called an illiterate, Mr. Speaker. All of us have different ways in which we air our opinions, but for our party leader, sorry, majority.
We don't have party leader here.
I stood because I did the best at Egesa FM That is why they believed in me, the community,
So what's your point
and made me the woman rep. You should withdraw that name of illiterate, please. No one is an illiterate. Even our old women in the village didn't go to school, but at least they told us this is wrong and this is right. Girls, keep yourself safe to get a right man. Say no even if it means yes, but don't allow yourself to be used. So let him withdraw that
Very well,
statement,
you've been
Mr.
heard.
Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know the Honorable Doris Donya, I didn't know she's a journalist, and she knows I have tremendous respect for journalists. But I meant that that particular radio presenter is financially illiterate, and is a fact of life. I know him, he's from my village. And when I tell you he's financially illiterate, trust me and believe me that he's financially illiterate. Honorable Speaker, if I go back to what I was saying, because there is that misnomer on the level of our indebtedness, but also, Honorable Speaker, to commend the National Treasury and the current administration, Honorable Speaker. Because when His Excellency the President said that this administration would do responsible borrowing, Honorable Speaker, he meant business. And when he told us last year during the campaigns that he was a man on a mission, many people took it for granted. But William Ruto is indeed a man on a mission, and he has proved he's a man on a mission to transform Kenya and make sure that our country's economy gets back to its feet. Honorable Speaker, let me take this opportunity also to commend the World Bank that at the management level, Honorable Speaker, has now confirmed, Honorable Speaker, that they will be granting us about $12 billion over the next 3 years, Honorable Speaker. And that, Honorable Speaker, is besides the almost $1 billion that we're also getting from IMF, Honorable Speaker. And this is the concessional financing that the debt committee is talking about, Honorable Speaker, so that we're able to retire most of our expensive commercial debt into this concessional financing and be able to reestablish a stable economy that will work for the majority of Kenyans. And I want to believe, Honorable Speaker, with the kind of leadership that we see under the Kenya Kwanza administration and the able leadership of the Public Debt Committee by the Honorable Shurie, deputized by the Honorable Makali Mulu, they will be able to ensure that our public debt levels are properly managed and within levels that are sustainable for our country, and that debt that will also go towards financing actual projects. And I must commend the committee because, again, and Honorable Makali Mulu, we remember when we served with him in the Budget and Appropriation Committee, we always insisted in all our reports that all our debt must be traceable to specific projects. And I see the Public Debt Committee now being a standalone committee dealing with public debt. You should now be able to ensure that the National Treasury is able to specifically drill down each of the debts that we borrow in this country to particular projects and ensure that there are projects that have a return to the people of Kenya and projects that will be able eventually to be able to pay back the debt that we incur as a nation. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I beg to support this report and ask members to support as I congratulate all the members of the Public Debt Committee. This indeed, Honorable Speaker, have proven that unlike many other committees of this House, that these are very diligent legislators who know what their work in committee is, and not just churning out reports, but also being there in the House to debate their reports and support their chair and vice chair. And I want to ask all our chairs to emulate the chair of the Public Debt Committee and the vice chair and the membership of the Public Debt Committee. With that, I beg to support.
Very well. Leader, I'm a very serious member of the Debt Committee. Next to speak on this is Honorable Thuku Kwenya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to support our own report on loans contracted between the year 22 to 23, April, that is, Chair, Speaker, and I must say that I want to join other speakers who have spoken prior to me in acknowledging the amount of work that our committee is putting into matters debt. In fact, Mr. Speaker, to some extent I think, or it's my suggestion, or it's my opinion, that we should have a public debt authority that will be tasked with looking into the issues of debt, because debt is becoming an issue, and a big one for that matter in this country and countries that are within the region, within Africa, for the simple reason that our budgets are just about a fifth or a fourth of our public debt combined, Mr. Speaker. You realize at the moment our debt is at about 10.5 trillion. Our budget for this fiscal year, financial year, is about 3.5 trillion or thereabout. So you can see our budget is, we oversight budget more than we are doing oversight on our debt. And I think it's about time that this House, in its wisdom, considers to see how best we can deal with this issue and be in a position to oversight every penny that is borrowed so that the people of Kenya can get value for the monies that they are paying out in terms of principals and interest and fees, in terms of commitment fees, and to see value as to where the monies are going. And I want to thank our committee because in our recommendation, it has been well captured that MDAs and SAGAs, state agencies and government-owned enterprises, will now be in a position to report to the House as to what they have, where they have put the money, and this committee, the Assembly, National Assembly, will be able to see through where the monies have been put. Mr. Speaker, of concern, and I think the reason as to why we did this report, looking forward to a situation whereby the government has borrowed, or the National Treasury has borrowed up to 213 billion for that 1 year, and only 11% of that monies have been absorbed or been disbursed. Then it means if this is going to be the trend, we could take over 10 years, if you look at this exponentially, we could take a whole 10 years to absorb 213 billion. And I think this should concern us. Today we are moiling and toiling and having an issue with exchange rate. We have an issue with interest rate. We have an issue with commitment fees because once you borrow, you have a grace period. There's a window as to how long you should take before you take up the money or start paying off the monies. And the grace period is expiring even before we start consuming or absorbing the monies that we've borrowed. And I think that should concern us because I believe that the hole that we are into today in terms of debt is self-inflicting. Today as we speak, about 1.1 trillion has not been absorbed, monies that have been borrowed over the years and projects that were envisaged to be implemented via those loans have not been completed or they have not even kicked off. Why is it that the National Treasury is borrowing happy? Why is it that we are borrowing money and yet we do not have a plan as to how, or in terms of procurement, how is it that we are taking so long to procure so that then all these monies that we borrow for specific projects take off, Mr. Speaker? I think this report will bring to life the role of Parliament in terms of oversight. Because we cannot just be oversighting budget implementation of our own revenue, which is so little as compared to the amount of monies that we've borrowed over time. And I think, Mr. Speaker, there is a recommendation that is in this report by the Controller of Budget as to the effect that state-owned agencies that borrow money or that Treasury borrow money on behalf, they should be made to pay back if they are generating monies or incomes. Because you realize that there are corporations like Kenya Power Lighting Company, KenGen, they generate their own income, yet they are guaranteed by the national government. The national government takes upon itself to pay for such loans, yet the state-owned agencies are generating their own income. Mr. Speaker, it is about time that this House pronounce itself so that then we do not get to an abyss of debt spiraling over and over because of inaction or because of a lack of oversight. Mr. Speaker, I realized today as we were debating the county government additional allocation of funds, of revenue, so to say, the county government additional allocation. There was monies that were borrowed last financial year, the year 2022. The same money was committed to budget and appropriated through County Government Allocation Act of 2022, but the money never came through. And therefore, we are required as a House again to go back and amend that act so that then we can see whether the same money is going to be absorbed this financial year, 23-24. And I think, as the Honorable Leader of Majority has stated, non-absorption of loans affects even our budget cycles and what we envisage as a country where we need to be in the next financial year. I have figured out that single loan that was supposed to see second informal settlements improvement projects, that is KISIP, worth 6.6 billion. It was appropriated. There was a county government additional allocation that was passed in 2022, yet the monies were never absorbed. So then Parliament will have to redo its work again. And of course, we know that Parliament does not act in vain. Mr. Speaker, I do not want to belabor into, explaining much that is in this report, but I pray that this House will find it in its wisdom to pass or to adopt the committee's report so that then going forward we can exercise our constitutionally mandated duty by the Constitution as a House to oversight and to see that there is proper use of all these monies that have been advanced to this country. Mr. Speaker, finally, on the issue of liquidity, you realize that the government at times suffers because you borrow money, but the money remains in the purse of the lender. So that then you can only access that money because at times the clauses in these contracts where we borrow are not Kenya-friendly. They are not friendly to the borrower. How comes that I walk into a bank, borrow money, but it is under the purview of the bank to tell me how I'm going to spend that money or at what rate I can withdraw. Here I'm expected to be repaying that money while it is not in my pocket. And they're not going to charge interest on the money that I've drawn down. It is on the entire loan. I think it is upon us now as a House to pronounce ourselves, and maybe the National Treasury needs to relook into the kind of contracts that they are signing. So that then once we borrow money, then that money can hit our coffers here. That is going to improve our liquidity. And maybe even the issue of depreciation of Kenya shilling in terms of exchange rate compared to foreign currency, we are going to cure that because we'll have enough in our coffers. Mr. Speaker, I wish to support this report and request that all the members of this House find it in their heart to support this because it's going to be the game changer in terms of how we oversight our loans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Abraham Kirwa, Member of Parliament, Musop.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to actually support this report of the Committee of Debt and Privatization. I truly want also to commend the committee for the great job that they have done. And sincerely, Mr. Speaker, this committee actually plays a huge role in making sure that the loans that this country undertake will be actual loans that actually can be dispersed, loans that can actually be accounted for, and loans that can actually go for what exactly was intended to do. I want to support some of the suggestions and recommendations from this committee because looking at some of the loans that it said that this country undertook a huge loan, but the amount of loans that was truly dispersed was only 11%. You know, during the review of this loan, it was noted that only 3 loans totaling to 24.2 billion, primarily commercial loans, had been partially dispersed, indicating a disbursement rate of only 11%. But the rest of the loans was not disclosed as to whether it was actually dispersed or it was not really dispersed on a timely manner. And as such, the country has committed to have taken these loans. They continue to pay commitment fees, which is continuously causing the country to pay a lot of money without really this loan being used within the country. And as such, the recommendation that 8.3, which I want to actually look into it, that says that the committee recommended that in order to facilitate the oversight of debt and to promote transparency and accountability of loan contracts entered into, the National Treasury should attach the contract signed against each submitted report and should not enter into any contract that does not adhere to the principles of public finance as set under the Article 201 of the Constitution. This will help us, Mr. Speaker, because for every contract that is signed, we should be able to review. The Parliament should be able to look into it. Who signed it? When was it intended for? And how is it going to help this country? On recommendation number 8.9, no later than 30 days of the end of each financial year, ministries, state departments, and implementing agencies, the MDAs, responsible for the projects for which the loans have been obtained should submit a report to the National Assembly indicating the measures taken. Mr. Speaker, this period of time, the 30 days, is going to help us so that if there was any monkey games being played, we should be able to catch it at the debt committee, and we should be able to follow it with the appropriate departments as to why the loan has been incurred and if the loan really was used for what it was supposed to be. On the recommendation number 811, as from financial year 2024-2025, at the end of the sector working group engagement, the National Treasury should submit to the National Assembly a report containing the list of potential projects for which the loan financing will be contracted, the potential creditors and the respective loan terms, so that we understand as to exactly why we are taking these loans and if these loans has actually been used and has been dispersed. And recommendation number 812, Mr. Speaker, arising from 811 above, the final list of the projects to be financed through the borrowing should be submitted to the National Assembly. All this recommendation is coming to the National Assembly so that we become the watchdogs and we become the people who can actually make sure that the money that we are taking as a nation, because our loans right now is standing about 9.6 trillion amount of shillings that we have taken as a country. But most of those are not performing loans. Some of those loans are non-performing. Some of them have not been dispersed. And as a country, we are truly going through a lot of, we are paying a lot that we have not really incurred. 3, on committee observation number 7.1. The submitted report lacked project-specific information required to guide policy making and oversight, which indicates low level of transparency and accountability. Most of the loans that was taken does not actually are not transparent. It doesn't show as to when it was taken, why it was taken, and where it was used. And so this recommendation that the committee says within 30 days of signing the contract, it should be submitted to the Parliament so that they can review and understand. And also committee observation number 7.2, as per the reports, only 3 loans that it said, I've already mentioned that, was dispersed, 11%. But the rest of the almost 89% of the loans and resources, despite being signed for, remain undispersed. So I want to truly support this report of the committee, that we need to look into the loans that we take as a nation and also hold the Treasury accountable and also the department that are actually undertaking the loans, so that this country will be responsible for every loan and all the debts that we take as a nation. So I stand to support this report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. In other jurisdictions, honorable members, any loans taken by government on behalf of the state, like Ghana, are actually sanctioned by Parliament. But I think we are moving properly well. Now, next to speak on this is the Honorable Catherine Omanyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very much in order. Next to speak on this is Honorable Catherine Omanyo. Are you ready?
Yes.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really have looked into the budget, and the borrowing is haphazardly done. It's too much, and the rate at which Kenya is borrowing compared to the rate at which development is happening, there is something amiss. I even do not understand why there is no money to go to county levels to help in disaster management, because right now even governors are in a quagmire, they are stranded, there's no money to handle El Nino. And yet I'm seeing the country has been borrowing over and over. Even right now, I'm sure where the president is, he has gone to borrow again. So we need to cut our cloth according to our size as a nation and not exorbitantly keep borrowing and put our future generations in trouble, because all we are doing today is what our future generations will feel. In fact, it's not even future. We are already feeling it right now. It is better to borrow and actually make sure that we use that money to create new money for us, create new avenues for everybody in our country to get a way of making their own life bearable. But at the moment, when you see how much the government has been borrowing compared to what Kenyans are receiving, it is imbalanced. So we need to hit a pivot at the right place to balance what we are asking compared to what we are doing. Because if we do not have industries and things that will bring or create jobs and create new money in our country, we are going into a brink. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Paul Biego.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. And I stand here to support the report from the committee. And kudos to the chairman and his vice and the committee members for actually giving us a very good report. And what has really interested me is the fact that they have factored in, and actually it has been properly taken note in 8.3, that in addition to the PFM Act 2012 provisions, the reports indicated above should also include information related to, and that is what has made me actually rise, that the report on the use of export credit agencies, that the ECA, and respective contingent liability exposure. And that will include contracts signed, expected benefits to the country, and any guarantee offered should be subject to the approval of Parliament. And I believe if that is effected, then we'll really take good care of any liabilities or any loans that are being taken on behalf of the country. And also what I support strongly is the fact that central bank's overdraft facility, the use of overdraft facilities would be factored in, and probably there would be no misuse of such kind of funds. And of course, also the quarterly reporting on the projects would be able to know and would be able to be well guided. So, Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to support strongly the report from the committee. Thank you.
The Honorable Dawood.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to add my voice in support of this very important report by the Public Debt Committee. Mr. Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to thank not only the members of the committee led by the chair, Honorable Sharia, but the able secretariat from the Parliamentary Budget Office led by the clerk, Wanachacha. Mr. Speaker, sir, the basis of us getting this report is Section 31(1) of the PFM Act. I want to read it for my colleagues. Section 31(1) says, the Cabinet Secretary, and that is Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, shall submit to Parliament every 4 months a report of all loans made to national government entities, and county governments in accordance with Article 211(2) of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, you will note that the report that is being discussed this afternoon has a lot of loans that have been contracted by the national government. And those loans are not all the loans. Mr. Speaker, sir, you will note that the loans being discussed are only those that are foreign in nature. There are no domestic loans that are being shown in this report. So I will urge the committee, in line with Section 31(1) of the PFM Act, to demand the Cabinet Secretary to report all loans, including the domestic loans, that this government or this country takes. You will note that, Mr. Speaker, that the budget we have just passed had a fiscal deficit of 861 billion shillings, which is the amount that we will borrow this year. And to reiterate what the leader of majority has said, we are not borrowing 4.3 trillion, we are only borrowing 861 billion. Half of that will be external borrowing, and slightly over half of that will be domestic borrowing, which is about 449. So this House, as the law demands, will want a report of the domestic borrowing in addition to the one that we are discussing. Mr. Speaker, you will note that Section 31(1) also talks about borrowings by national government entities, and county governments. I know that constitutionally there is a separation between the Senate and the National Assembly. But this report, Section 31(1), says that the Cabinet Secretary must report these loans. So in addition to the loans, both foreign and domestic, I hope that the next time we are discussing loans and a report of this committee, we will also see borrowings by county government. Mr. Speaker, borrowings or public finance is underpinned by Article 201 of the Constitution. I want to remind my colleagues and members of this House that this article talks about that burdens and benefits and the use of resource must be shared between this generation and future generation. These loans, as they come, the report also must include an intergenerational equity. We don't want to burden our grandchildren with debt that they have not taken, and we don't also want to take the burden of our grandchildren and pay for debts that should be for later generations. Article 201 also talks about equity, geographical equity. This report, or the next report that will come to this House, must also show that the loans that have been taken are also, there is an equity as far as geographical distribution of those loans are concerned. We will not want to see Kenyans paying for loans only going for development of certain parts of Kenya. It must be, if we are sharing the burden of paying for the loan, we must also share the benefits of those loans. Therefore, in the next report, I will hope that the committee for which I am a member of will have both the intergenerational equity report and the geographical equity report. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the report, you will see that submissions by the Controller of Budget, paragraph 6.3, that some of the loans that some of the state-owned agencies, semi-autonomous state-owned agencies take are being signed for by the national government. The committee has noted that that is not something that the national government should be doing. According to our constitution, the national government should only guarantee loans for semi-autonomous institutions and not be the ones signing the loans on behalf of those institutions. So this is something else that this committee will be looking out for and making sure that we are not burdened by loans for semi-autonomous government institutions that can pay those loans. A case in point is the guarantees that we are now paying for Kenya Airways. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are some loans which are signed for by the national government that this committee needs to be seized of, but are disbursed by county governments. In the next report, we will want those loans. One of them is like the World Bank loan that goes to my area by the name Kenya Development Response to Displaced Impact Project, K. Deep, that we appropriate here. The loans are taken, but they are done by the county. This committee also must be seized of those loans and must be able, when we are looking at the cost-benefit analysis of these projects, we must see even those loans that have been taken on behalf of county governments but are appropriated by this House. Mr. Speaker, other than those points, I would like to agree with all the observations and the recommendations by the committee, and we'll hope that in the next report it will be much more richer and informed by the observations made by our colleagues. I support, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Amina Mnazi.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia fursa hii niweze kuongelelea kuhusu hii ripoti ambayo imeweza kufikishwa kwetu na hii kamati ambayo tunaangalia masuala ya uchumi ya pesa zetu hapa ndani ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi kama kiongozi mchanga ambaye ni mara yangu ya kwanza kuja katika bunge la taifa, naweza nikasema ya kwamba mimi niko na wasiwasi mkubwa sana hapo ndani. Mheshimiwa Spika, naona maisha yetu sisi kama Wakenya katika miaka 10 na 20 inayokuja yatakuwa ni magumu zaidi kulingana na zile pesa ambazo serikali yetu ya Kenya kila siku tunakwenda kuomba. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukijua sisi Waswahili tunasema dawa ya deni ni kulipa. Na haya madeni yote ambao sisi tunachukua, dawa yake ni kwamba sisi kama Wakenya lazima tuweze kulipa. Na tusipolipa sisi, ina maana ni watoto wetu, kuna wajukuu wetu, vitukuu vyetu ndio ambao watakuja kuumia kwa kulipa madeni ambao dakika hii sisi kama Wakenya tunakwenda kuchukua. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeangalia hiyo ripoti vizuri na wanasema kati ya mwezi wa Mei mwaka 2022 na mwezi wa April mwaka wa 2023 kuna bilioni 213.24 zenye ambazo zimechukuliwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni lazima na sisi pia tueleze wakati wa serikali ya handshake kama hawa ndugu zetu wanavyosema, wakati kipindi hicho cha mwaka mmoja serikali ya handshake ilichukua bilioni 1.5 kumaanisha ya kwamba pesa ambazo sisi saizi ambazo tumekwenda kuomba Mheshimiwa Spika zimeweza kuongezeka zaidi. Ukiangalia serikali ya Kenya Kwanza ya sasa na ile serikali ya handshake, kuna tofauti kubwa ya pesa ambazo zimekwenda kuombwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi kama nchi ni lazima tuangalie kabla hatujakwenda kuomba pesa kule nje, pato letu la kitaifa liko vipi? Pato letu la kitaifa ni pesa ambazo zinaweza kustahamili na kuvumilia na kuangalia mikakati jinsi gani ambavyo hizi pesa zitalipwa, kwa sababu sisi kama serikali tunajua serikali iko na namna nyingi ya kuweza kupata pesa. Jambo la kwanza ni serikali iweze kuongeza ushuru, na huo ushuru ndo ni mambo ambayo sisi tumekataa kama watu wa Azimio. Tunasema kwamba hatutaki kuongezewa ushuru kwa sababu tayari bei ya maisha tayari iko juu. Pia vile vile sisi tunasema jambo la pili ambalo serikali inaweza kufanya ni kupunguza matumizi. Jambo la tatu ambalo serikali inaweza kufanya ili kuweza kupata pesa ni kuweza kuomba pesa. Sasa wao wanasema serikali ya Kenya Kwanza wakati wa handshake tayari kulikuwa kuna pesa ambazo ziliombwa. Cha kustajabisha dakika hii Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kama tumefungua milango ya watu kwenda kuomba kila mahali, kushoto, kulia, mbele na nyuma. Kila siku tunaona watu wanatoka hapa wanaenda nje kwenda kuomba na kuzidi kuleta mikopo na madeni kwetu sisi kama Wakenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na mimi kama kiongozi hiyo inaniuma nikifikiria kuna watoto wangu na wajukuu wangu ambao watakuja kuteseka na yale madeni ambao sisi leo hii tunakwenda kuchukua. Mheshimiwa Spika, pale awali sisi kiwango cha juu kabisa ambayo sisi tunaita kwa kimombo the national debt ceiling ilikuwa ni trilioni 10. Saizi hiyo kiwango cha juu kabisa cha kuomba kimeweza kuondolewa. Na katika hiyo trilioni 10 sisi kama nchi saizi tuko na deni la trilioni 9.6. Iwapo hili jambo, Mheshimiwa Spika, hichi kiwango cha juu kabisa kingekuwa hakijaondolewa, sisi kama Wakenya leo hii tungekuwa tumetahayari, kwa sababu tusingejua ni mahali gani ambapo tunakwenda kuzimbua pesa. Hii kiwango cha juu kabisa kimeshaondolewa, lakini hii mimi kwangu mimi ndio naona kuna athari kubwa zaidi, kwa sababu saizi kuna mambo ambayo hayaeleweki. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunapokopa hizi pesa, Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi kama nchi ni lazima tujue ni jinsi gani ambavyo tunakwenda kuzilipa hizi pesa. Na hilo jambo ni lazima liwekwe wazi kwa Wakenya, tuelewe tunakwenda kukopa na ni jinsi gani ambavyo tunapanga mikakati gani kama nchi ya kuweza kulipa haya madeni. Mambo kama hayo, Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi sijayaona. Kitu ambacho mimi naona ni watu kuamka na kwenda kukopa pasipo kufikiria zile njia ambazo sisi tutakwenda kuzilipia haya madeni. Mheshimiwa Spika, haya madeni pia hayana uwazi. Hayana uwazi kabisa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Wakati wa kwenda kuchukua mikopo ni watu kidogo wanakwenda kuchukua mikopo, lakini wakati wa kulipa tunatarajiwa sisi kama Wakenya, kila mtu, wazee kwa watoto, wanawake kwa wanaume, sote tuweze kulipa. Mheshimiwa Spika, hilo si jambo ambalo linanifurahisha mimi. Tunataka kuwe kuna uwazi. Ukimuuliza waziri wa fedha, unapitishwa stories za hapa na pale. Mheshimiwa Spika, hatujaona agreement zenye ambazo tuko nazo sisi kama nchi na nchi zingine. Mheshimiwa Spika, hatujaona agreements ambazo ziko kati yetu sisi wa Kenya na wale wa Kenya wengine ambao wanatufadhili sisi. Vitu kama hivyo, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni lazima viwe viko wazi. Ndipo pale serikali ambayo iko mamlakani ikieleza kuna madeni, sisi kama Wakenya tu tunajua madeni ni gani na ni pesa ngapi ambao tunafaa tulipe kila mwezi ama kila mwaka. Mheshimiwa Spika, serikali yetu sasa ni lazima tuache kutegemea misaada ambayo inatoka nje. Hii misaada ambayo inatoka nje, Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio ambayo inatusukuma sisi kama nchi. Leo hii tunasikia ukitaka pesa kutoka nchi kadhaa ni lazima nchi yetu kama ya Kenya tupitishe sheria za ushoga na usagaji, wa kizungu ni LGBTQ. Kwa sababu sisi wenyewe tumekataa kujitegemea. Tunategemea watu ambao wanatoka nje. Na ndio maana tunapata na tunaweza kuwekewa sheria ngumu kama hizo. Na ndio maana tunapoteza nchi yetu kwa kuweka sheria na vitu ambavyo havieleweki, Mheshimiwa Spika. Hapo zamani, juzi na jana, Mheshimiwa Spika, najua masuala ya utalii. Utalii ulikuwa unaleta pesa nyingi sana hapa Kenya. Saizi utalii wote umeondoka, watu wanaenda Tanzania, watu wanaenda Zanzibar, na sijasikia mikakati yoyote ambayo iko hapa ili kuweza kufufua utalii wetu. Saizi hatuna dola za kutosha, hatuna pesa za kigeni za kutosha. Tungeweka mikakati katika masuala ya utalii, angalau tungekuwa tuna afueni sisi kama watu wa Kenya. Matumizi ya pesa, kila siku tunadanganywa pesa zinakwenda kuchukuliwa kwa sababu ya kufanya miradi. Ukweli wa maneno ni kwamba matumizi ya pesa hapa Kenya ni mabaya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna a lot of corruption hapa ndani ya Kenya. Zile pesa ambazo zinaenda kuombwa yenyewe ni deni, na badala lifanyie jambo la muhimu, watu waweze kuona hizo pesa zinamalizikia katika mifuko ya watu, Mheshimiwa Spika. Hilo ni jambo lingine ambalo linanisikitisha sana, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lengine, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba haya madeni ambao sisi tunakwenda kuchukua kama nchi, mapendekezo yangu mimi ni kwamba yaweze kupitishwa na bunge la kitaifa. Kwa sababu kama sisi tunaketi hapa na tukipanga masuala ya pesa zinavyotumika ndani ya Kenya yetu, nafikiria pia sisi tuko na haki ya kujua hizi pesa ambazo zinatoka nje zinakuja hapa Kenya kivipi, na tuweze kuzipitisha. Kwa sababu sisi ndio ambao ni sauti ya wale wanyonge kule nje, Mheshimiwa Spika. Sasa saizi kila mtu mtu anakuja na stori zake, Mheshimiwa Spika, pasipo na mwelekeo mzuri. Nikimalizia, Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi ombi langu lengine ni kwamba kuhusu haya madeni yetu tuweze kufanya ukaguzi. Ukaguzi, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kizungu ni audit. Tuweze kufanya ukaguzi ama audit ya yale madeni yote ambayo sisi tuko nayo, ndio tuweze kuelewa haswa sisi wa Kenya ni mahali gani ambapo tumesimama na jinsi gani ambavyo tunaweza kujiondoa katika hii shida. Asante sana Spika.
Very well, well spoken. Wacha tumsikie sasa Honorable Member for Tetu, Geoffrey Mwangi. The Honorable Geoffrey Mwangi. Yes, there's a microphone just close to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to also contribute and voice my support on the report on the loans contracted by the national government between the months of May 2022 and April 2023. Mr. Speaker, I'll start by saying that this report is a very much welcome report, because in this country there are certain things that depending on who you ask, you get different answers. And one of those things is the level of national debt. It has become the subject of media speculation. It has become the subject of analysis. It has become the subject of all manner of accusation as to who borrowed more and who borrowed less and who borrowed what and who borrowed when all that debate is completely unnecessary and actually unhelpful. Mr. Speaker, one of the things I would recommend is the establishment of a national debt registry. And Mr. Speaker, debt in a country is not a crime. A government borrowing is not a crime. That's how all governments around the world operate. They borrow from other governments, from multilateral lenders, from the domestic market. And because debt is a public issue, I see no reason why Treasury and the executive cannot bring transparency by having a national debt registry. And I've spoken about this, Mr. Speaker, in this House, whereby any Tom, Dick, and Harry, anybody who wants to access any information about any loan borrowed, because there's no loan borrowed in secret or for secret purposes. All these loans are for Kenyans, and they are all borrowed with a good intention. There should be a place where they can go and be able to pick up this information, verify for themselves, understand how much money was borrowed, what it was borrowed for, what are the loan terms, were there any collaterals issued, when will it be due, etc., etc. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to say that this debt registry should not only just contain, the multilateral loans, but also domestic loans, because domestic loans, which come mainly by way of treasury bills and treasury bonds and the infrastructure bonds, are published all the time by the central bank. We know how much the government has borrowed at each point. And this can also include any guarantees that we have given to government entities, any loans that have been picked by county governments, and any money borrowed by government agencies. But Mr. Speaker, as we bring transparency to this whole debt situation, so that all Kenyans don't have to be, it doesn't need to be the subject of speculation. I think it is important that our country, we give it a hard thought of how we want to manage our debt going forward. And Mr. Speaker, it is not a secret that right now our debt levels are not at very, very comfortable levels. There is something that needs to be done on them. And I propose two things, Mr. Speaker, as I support this report. That one, we need to rein in on waste and corruption, and especially unhelpful recurrent expenditure, so that we ensure that the few resources that we have go to the productive economy. We must also ask ourselves, the money that we borrow, what projects do we invest? What's the return on investment? Which are the places that we can borrow and put our money and get the highest return, either in terms of improving infrastructure to ensure that you have better access to markets, either in terms of building certain capacities so that the nation is more productive. These are the things that we must concern ourselves, Mr. Speaker. The other issue I would like to raise is that we must widen the tax base, because as a country we have to reduce our budget deficit. And the only way we can do this is not by going to borrow more, but by ensuring that as a country we have a wide tax base so that we have enough resources for ourselves. Because there is no country that also can grow entirely if it does not produce its own resources, either in form of taxes or levies. So it is very, very important that we ensure that we widen the resource base. Mr. Speaker, when we borrow domestically, we also crowd the productive private sector. Today, part of the reasons why our interest rates have gone to 18 to 20% is because myself as a borrower and yourself as a borrower, we are also competing, with the government for resources. So how can the government ensure that we widen the tax base so that we have less and less of this domestic borrowing, and then we supplement the deficits that we are going to have, with our foreign loans. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support, and I like the transparency, and I like the fact that, for once we are tabling this. Let us ensure that we build this national debt register, ensure it is transparent, ensure that, in this country, there is no secret, about debt, because every country in the world borrows. But what we must emphasize is responsible borrowing, and also to ensure that the funds that we borrow are used for the most productive aspects of the economy, and we ensure that we stem any waste, in the borrowing. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support, and thank you for your time.
The Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the report by the Committee on Public Debt on the status of the loan contracted by the national government between May 2022 and April 2023. Honorable Speaker, this report is a good report. It's coming at a time, Honorable Speaker, when there is so much speculation in the country on how much money has been borrowed and at what time has been borrowed. Honorable Speaker, looking at the report as it is, it has scheduled between the month of May last year to the month of April this year, that, Honorable Speaker, 213 billion was borrowed. Therefore, this report confirms the status of our borrowing as a country to other foreign countries, Honorable Speaker. What is it that we mean by borrowing, Honorable Speaker? And the question that comes into play is borrowing bad? The answer is no. Borrowing is not bad, but borrow for a good cause. Let us understand, Honorable Speaker, whether these resources that have been borrowed have been expended on a good cause, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, when you look at the expenditure that has been itemized on various issues, I want to single out, Honorable Speaker, one issue which has been put into the programs. For example, being, Honorable Speaker, one program that has costed 4.25 billion shillings, being food security and youth employment in Western Kenya through local climate resilience project. Honorable Speaker, I come from Western Kenya. If we are borrowing, Honorable Speaker, for the purpose of helping the people of Western Kenya to defeat the challenges in climate change, it's good. But, Honorable Speaker, what is happening is the funds have been borrowed, but they have not been dispersed. We now have floods. We now have challenges of climate change in Western Kenya. What are we trying to say? We are now saying this is a good report that is coming at a time, Honorable Speaker, when Parliament has now to really give oversight to what the executive has done. It has a good idea, but we must enforce, Honorable Speaker, and say, can we then let these resources go to our people? Our people need these resources. What happens, we are talking of our debt ceiling, our debt portfolio, Honorable Speaker, being 10.5 trillion. Where is this money that is now supposed, is also congesting that ceiling, that space, Honorable Speaker, so that we are now talking of a figure which is on paper. We want to see that the executive of the day, Honorable Speaker, as it has planned, let it implement the course, Honorable Speaker. We are looking at the other issue which has touched my attention, Honorable Speaker, is the program on promotion of entrepreneurship and employment. Honorable Speaker, Center for Entrepreneurship, the borrowing is 3.55 billion shillings. But what's the cause? The cause is addressing issues of the youth, so that the youth can now get employment. The youth can now use the skills they've acquired in universities to undertake what they can earn on a daily basis, Honorable Speaker. Instead, Honorable Speaker, what is it that's happening? The report is showing that these resources are undispersed. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we are saying the executive has a good cause. But what is happening today is that the resources are taking a whole year. When you look at when was the date signed, in December 2022, for both cases, by the government of Kenya, together with the Federal Republic of Germany. This is a good cause, Honorable Speaker, but why is it that it's not being implemented? That is where now, Honorable Speaker, we come in, and I say it is high time, Honorable Speaker, that now Parliament takes its position to oversight the executive fully, so that we put the executive to account. Honorable Speaker, the President has delivered by signing the concessional loans. What is the Minister for Agriculture doing that is keeping this money not being disbursed? The money the activities should be there so that the Treasury disperses the resources. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we should make sure that we put the ministers or the CSS to task to make sure that they do their work, deliver the status that has been concessioned to, and we have work being done. Honorable Speaker, in the 12th Parliament, where I served with you, you'll agree with me that such a reports were not there. We never used to discuss these reports. This is a golden opportunity, Honorable Speaker, that we now need to go a notch higher and say we are not just going to discuss reports to this House. Let also, when the executive is signing to these concessions, get notes from Parliament, Honorable Speaker. We don't just get papers dropped into Parliament, but they've not been concessioned to. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, this is a step towards the right direction. The country has moved to the next level. And Honorable Speaker, when you look at our Constitution 2010, Article 114, especially Part 3, which now talks about the issues on receivables, receipts of public resources. Honorable Speaker, we need to go a notch higher and advance and say, before we even receive these resources, can Parliament have a say on these resources that we are committing, Honorable Speaker? And Honorable Speaker, looking at what has happened, that now a committee can sit down and open up, dissect two things. The report we discussed yesterday, Honorable Speaker, on CFS, and the report that we are discussing today. What it means, Honorable Speaker, Kenyans can now access the right information. We need not to rely on hearsays. We can get the right information. We can talk of the figures that we know. We can now debate. And Honorable Speaker, tell Kenyans that indeed we have overborrowed. That indeed we are borrowing for XYZ cause. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I see Parliament growing further. I see Parliament now legislating well and oversight in the executive, which I feel, Honorable Speaker, further to what I've said, we also need not just to be receiving this as a report. My suggestion to the committee is, can we have it as a statement annually? So that, Honorable Speaker, despite the quarterly reports proposed by the committee, can we then have it also annually? So that we dissect and monitor the various loans that the government has borrowed within that fiscal year. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support the report.
The Honorable Moroto, do you want to speak on this?
Asante sana Bwana Spika kwa kunipa nafasi ili pia nichangie wazo ama hii report ya committee. Kwanza nataka nishukuru sana wale committee ambao waliketi na wakakubaliana wote mpaka leo vile tumepata report hapa mbele yetu. Tunajua hii ni mwendo mzuri na ni mwelekeo ambao itapeleka Kenya na watu wa Kenya kwa njia ambayo itawasaidia siku za usoni. Mheshimiwa Spika, nakumbuka committee kama hii haikuwa kwa hizo na parliament ambayo imepita yote. Kwa hivyo nataka nichukue nafasi pia kushukuru wale viongozi ambao wanatuongoza kuanzia ninyi wale speakers pamoja na wale walichangia kuona kwamba waunde committees ambayo inaweza kusaidia mambo kama haya. Kwa sababu ilikuwa ni vigumu. Sasa unajua wenye na deal na mambo ya madeni, si kitu ambayo itakuwa ni huyu anashika yule anashika, ni hawa wanajua kwamba nini inaingia nini inatoka. Kwa hivyo tunaona kwamba kuna mwelekeo, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Ile kitu ambayo nataka ni waulize wenzangu, mnajua kwamba hii ni mkono moja ya serikali. Najua kwamba tunaambia kwamba serikali iko na mikono mitatu. Hii ni mmoja. Kwa hivyo wakati tunasema kwamba serikali imefanya hivi, unajua kwamba sisi wenyewe tunaweka kidole, tunajiangalisha ile mkono upande wetu. Kwa hivyo lazima tuseme vile sasa report imekuja hivi, tuwe na watu ambao watafuata. Kama ile kuna ile committee ya implementation, au waanze kuona kwamba kuna nini ambayo inaendelea. Kama kuna nini committee nyingine ambayo inasidi hapo hivi, kwa sababu ni sisi ndio tunaweza kuweka Kenya iwe Kenya, hapa mpaka wananchi, kwa sababu ni wananchi walijitokeza na wakatuweka katika ili tuwakilishe hawa, kama vile mwenzangu mmoja amesema hapa hivi. Hii na tukiwa hapa hivi hakuna kitu ambacho tunaweza kuwaste. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, nataka niseme tukiangalia kwa mambo ya vile wale wanaenda kuuliza, ni kweli kama vile watu wanasema, utapata kwamba pesa mingi inaingia wale wanaenda kuomba, lakini hatuoni kitu ambayo inafanya. Mheshimiwa Speaker, mimi natoka sehemu ya upande wa North Rift, kule ni Asal area, na utapata kwamba ile vita ambayo unasikia watu wanakombana, wanapikana, wanafanya nini, ni kwa sababu ya ile shida, umaskini ambayo iko katika ile sehemu. Watu naumia, badala mtu anaona sasa kufe, anasema wacha aende kwa jirani, sasa ingine apate moja na yani mboga ya watoto, na hiyo imeleta shida. Lakini kama kuna chakula, Mheshimiwa Speaker, ambaye inaweza kuingia na kusaidia hawa. Nakumbuka hata kuna wakati tulipitisha hapa hivi tukasema askari ya jeshi na polisi waende na wasaidie usalama katika hiyo area. Mheshimiwa Speaker, hata ukienda huko saizi utapata wale wanalia, hawana mafuta, hawana nini, na kuna pesa tulipeana, hatujui kwamba imeingia wapi. Sasa lazima tuwe na, kwa sababu kazi yetu hapa hivi ni kutazama na kutoa macho na kuangalia nini ambayo inafanyika, ili ile pesa ambayo wananchi, unajua hii pesa si ya mtu, ni raia ndio walitoa taxes yao, kodi yao, jasho yao. Kwa hivyo lazima tuone kwamba ile jasho hao wanapata iwe ni ya ukweli, wapate kwa haki yao na wafurahie. Mheshimiwa Speaker, hiyo ndio mimi nataka tukusema kwamba ikiwa tutaendelea namna hii, tusiwe nyumba ambayo inaongea a talking house, ile ambayo unaongea na kuweka tu ile reports kama hiyo inaanza kusanya nene ya vumbi katika mahali iko. Lazima tufuatilie. Hata wakati mwingine tuulize hao committee, ile mliweka hapa hivi mmefikisha wapi? Isije kwamba tunaongea tu hapa hivi, mtu anaongea, watu wanaangalia, vile tunaongea hivi watu sagina wanamba wananchi mawazo safi. Wanaanza kuwa na ile hope kwamba hapa naonekana kuna mwelekeo mzuri, lakini unaona kwamba mwishowe hakuna. Mheshimiwa Speaker, hii ndio nataka tunihimize nikisema kwamba hii nyumba ya sasa, the current parliament, Mheshimiwa Speaker, naona kwamba kuna watu ambao wanaweza kusema ukweli bila kuficha. Kuna wakati ungesema kitu hapa hivi, kwa sababu nyumba ilikuwa kule ni opposition, kule ni serikali upande hii, lakini sasa hizi utapata kwamba hata yule kiongozi ambaye anatoka upande wa wale wachache anapepa na gari ya chikei. Kwa hivyo sisi yote hapa ni serikali sasa. Kwa hivyo tuweke nguvu yetu pamoja. Hata niliona ile kijana yangu juzi tuliweka hapa hivi kwa minority leader, leo anatembea na chikei hapa mbele. Nikamwambia basi hiyo ndio sasa serikali inakaa namna hiyo. Si kama wakati yule mwingine ungeona kama kuna mtu opposition hapa hivi na serikali hapa hivi, yule mwingine aweze kuangalia huyu mwingine. Na sisi ni wana Kenya. Na sisi pia ni nyumba moja. Ukiangalia ile imeandikwa hapa hivi, hii nyumba ni ya wana Kenya ambao wanataka wafurahie. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, sitaki kusema zaidi, nataka tuniunge mkono na kushukuru wale committee kwamba tuende namna hivi, lakini sasa tuweke nguvu zaidi mpaka tuone kwamba kama sasa ile juzi tunasikia kuna mafuta ya 17 billion. Mama moja naangaishwa. Wengine wanatokea, hata nashukuru wale watu ambao walifukuza watu kwa kanisa. Najua unaenda huko na kusema haleluya na jana ulitufanya dhambi. Kwa mimi hata naweza kurarua watu kama hawa. Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Daniel found out that Anibal knows about what happened to Carolina.
You made a big mistake, traitor. You knew where she was that whole time that she was injured, and you didn't say anything.
There are men already on his trail, and they're going to charge him for that drug shipment.
Look who decided to grace us with his presence.
To forgive me for all the offensive things that I have done to you?
She left very sad because she herself found out that you're already seeing another woman.
But that is not true.
Congratulations!
That as you begin to take on this new path together,
estaré contigo cuando tú lo quieras en el crudo invierno.
Ukinigusa ukinikumbatia kwangu naona zawadi. Stori za mapenzi wakiniletea naona wazuchi wanazingua, mbona si tuko gudi? Hawajui unavyonipendelea, waninyonyesha huku nimekua, upendo umezidi mpaka unikumbate ndo naongea, nikiwa mbali baby ujazoea, au nafanya kusudi. Kuna wao kuna sisi, kuna wewe kuna mimi, tulianza kama utani na sasa hivi tunaenjoy love. Mchana kupe hatujifichi, nipeni kupya ni mambo fiti, tulianza kama utani na sasa hivi tunaenjoy love. La
basi mama kunitete, maana sio mwilini tu, mpaka moyoni unanijua. Uweza mabodigadi sina, ni mnyonge takulinda na dua. Usoni, moyoni, nimejawa na furaha na macho ila sioni wako ninyema raha. Tunavyojipenda adira mpaka sasa, unavyonipenda adira mpaka sasa, tunavyojipenda adira mpaka sasa, unavyonipenda adira. Kama mapenzi safari, mtauchunga mzigo mbaya.